Chapter 5548. This scene was extremely terrifying. If it was any other sacred clan, they would have probably died. However, this time it was Lin Xian who attacked. A dragon's roar shook the 9 heavens. Endless sword light rushed in all directions. Tens of thousands of giant dragon roars blasted away those black tadpoles. Behind Lin Xian, terrifying dragon shadows appeared one after another. He seemed to have turned into a dragon god, suppressing all directions. Those tadpoles were either split apart, or they were directly slapped to the ground by the dragon claws. Lin Xian killed his way out of the terrifying energy. He actually had the power of the dragon clan. The mysterious great emperor in front of him also snorted coldly. He really didn't expect that an ant would have so many supernatural powers. Lin Xian walked forward like a sword god. Everywhere he passed, those black tadpoles all fell. He killed a bloody path. When he reached the end, there was no more path. In the end, it was split apart by Lin Xian's sword. He continued to walk down. The inextinguishable power below and the power of the barren tomb turned into 2 sabers that seemed to be attacking. At this moment, Lin Xian saw clearly that there was a palace at the end of the path. It was a black palace, as black as a demon, like the palace of a demon god. Inside this palace, there was a terrifying aura. The mysterious voice came from here. When he saw this palace, Lin Xian was extremely shocked. He was sure that this black palace was definitely built by the demon emperor. Around this palace, there was a lot of green mist that was highly poisonous. It could corrode everything. Lin Xian's sword qi spread out, blocking the poison. The 2 collided and made crackling sounds. Lin Xian frowned. It seemed that this poison was very terrifying. It was very likely left behind by the great emperor. But, fortunately, after tens of thousands of years, the poison had become very little. That was why he was able to block it. Otherwise, no matter how strong he was, he wouldn't be able to block it. Just like that, he continued to resist the poison as he walked forward. In the end, her soul shook. The surrounding tadpoles were also crawling outside. They roared crazily, but they didn't dare to enter. You were sealed here. Lin Xian shouted coldly as he looked at the devil palace in front of him. However, a wave of anger came from the devil palace. "Ant, you still dare to challenge me? I can slap you to death with a single slap." Lin Xian laughed heartily when he heard that. "Then why don't you film it? You can't get out at all. Ignorant ants." The voice in the devil palace became even angrier. The next moment, the entire demon palace began to shake violently. Lin Xian's expression changed as well. Impossible. Could he really come out? At the same time, the phantom of an enormous creature appeared. That colossal green mountain appeared above the devil palace. It actually carried Emperor's might. Lin Xian's face was pale. She hurriedly recalled the heaven-devouring jar to defend herself. The heaven-swallowing jar unleashed a terrifying extreme Dao aura to barely block the attack. The power of a great emperor was extremely terrifying. This was just an illusion, but it could suppress the 9 heavens. Lin Xian could only stand here because she had an extreme Dao weapon. Otherwise, even the previous boundary emperor would have to kneel on the ground and kowtow nonstop. What surprised Lin Xian even more was that this green colossal creature was actually a frog. Of course, this frog was too terrifying. The aura on its body was vast. Lin Xian finally understood where these black tadpoles came from. They were created by this frog great emperor. The dragon in his body also exclaimed softly. It was actually him. He was sealed here. Lin Xian was surprised. "Dragon, do you know him?" The dragon nodded. It had heard of him. "Do you remember the Permitha that I told you about? He was the very famous, green-robed, great emperor in the Permitha." Lin Xian was even more shocked. This frog was actually from the Permitha, and it was really a great emperor. This was too unbelievable. The enemy of the demon emperor back then was actually the Permitha. This Prometha was too terrifying. There was actually a great emperor at the same time. After the huge frog in front of him appeared, it roared towards the sky. Damn it, successor of the demon emperor, I can actually feel the aura of the great dragon sword on you. Damn it, I must suppress you. An extremely terrifying light bloomed in his eyes and turned into two sharp swords. He charged towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian hurriedly used the heaven-devouring jar to block. With a boom, he was forced back. His blood and qi churned, and his face turned pale. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. It was too terrifying. This was a great emperor. It was just an illusion. It injured him who had an extreme Dao weapon. If a real great emperor came out, even if he had an extreme Dao weapon, he probably wouldn't be able to defeat him. The gap was really too big. However, the green-robed great emperor was even more furious. Who was he? He was a great emperor who swept across the 9 heavens and 10 earths. He was an existence who swept across the universe. Everyone below the great emperor was an ant. Even a quasi-emperor could be easily killed by him. But now a puny saint, such an ant, actually blocked his attack. More importantly, this person was related to the demon emperor and the great dragon sword. This was his enemy. Lin Xian smiled. Although his face was pale, his smile was bright. Is this your strength? That's all there is to it. You're really weak. You can't even kill me. What qualifications do you have to be called a great emperor? You'll be suppressed here for the rest of your life. The green-robed great emperor roared angrily when he heard that. The huge frog illusion also kept shaking. Damn it, lowly ant. He roared again, and his voice shook the sky. Lin Xian's soul shook violently. Not good. The other party's body was a frog, and a frog's voice was very terrifying. In addition, the other party's great emperor cultivation base was even more terrifying. With that, the entire world crumbled. In fact, the entire Burial Earth star was shaking violently. At this moment, all the living beings on Burial Earth prostrated on the ground. Even the great emperor families were shocked. What kind of voice was this? Heavens, what happened? It was really too terrifying. The extreme Dao weapons in their families suddenly erupted with a terrifying light that enveloped all directions. The patriarchs and supreme elders of the emperor families also walked out one by one. The emperor weapons actually issued a warning. Could it be that a peerless enemy had appeared? They didn't know. Lin Xian was the first to bear the brunt. He felt that his soul was about to split open. He used the Rinnegan to resist. The power of the 6 paths of reincarnation appeared. At the same time, he activated the great dragon sword soul with all his strength. He let out the most terrifying dragon roar to resist the other party's voice. Lin Xian retreated again, but he still blocked it. I've said it before. You, a great emperor, are really too weak. You can't kill me twice. What qualifications do you have to be called a great emperor? Lin Xian laughed and took a step forward. Although he was injured, he was indeed proud. One had to know that this was a great emperor, an existence that could shatter eternity with a glance. If others knew that Lin Xian could actually contend against a great emperor, they would be scared. They would really be scared to death. Although this great emperor had been sealed, not everyone could challenge him. Didn't the demon slayer from before get killed so easily? Chapter 5549. You really have the power of the great dragon sword. Damn it. After sensing this aura, the green-robed great emperor in front of him was furious again. He would never forget this kind of power because it had once caused him serious injuries. As for the demon emperor, he was even more furious. The other party had actually built a cage to trap him. Of course, the other party wouldn't have a good ending, but he couldn't bear it. Roar! At this moment, the huge frog roared towards the sky and swallowed the corpse of the demon-slaying formation. Not good, the great dragon exclaimed and quickly retreated. Lin Xian's expression changed drastically. A quasi-emperor's corpse contained a lot of power. If it was absorbed by the other party, it would be really troublesome. He quickly retreated. In the next moment, the huge frog phantom disappeared. At the same time, there was a shake from the demon palace, and a figure walked out. Lin Xian felt as if he was facing a great enemy, and his hair stood on end. Damn it! This great emperor couldn't have come out just like that, right? In the next moment, he saw the figure arrive at the entrance of the demon palace. However, he didn't come out. He just stood there. This time, Lin Xian finally saw it clearly. In front of him, there was indeed a frog, but it was very strange. It wasn't a complete frog, only half of it. Half of its body was split by the sword, and the other half disappeared. The remaining half of his body was still tightly bound by 9 chains. With every step the other party took, those chains would make a clanging sound. At most, the other party could only walk at the entrance of the demon palace and couldn't take another step out. Can't come out? Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief, and his heart calmed down a little. It seemed that the other party had only recovered some of his movement, but he couldn't completely break the seal. However, he was even more shocked. This frog was a great emperor, but it was split in half. What kind of battle was it back, then, that even a great emperor suffered such a serious injury? Moreover, even with the strength of a great emperor, he couldn't recover. At this moment, the great dragon in his body said, "See, you know why he is so angry. You are the successor of the demon emperor." Back then, the demon palace, built by the demon emperor, trapped him. And the reason he hated the successor of the great dragon was that his body was split in half by the great dragon sword. What? Lin Xian was dumbfounded. This frog had been split apart by the great dragon sword. The great dragon sword had once split a great emperor in half. Furthermore, this martial monarch had yet to recover. It was too unbelievable. Lin Xian knew how terrifying the great dragon sword was, but he didn't expect it to be so terrifying. The great dragon sword at its peak was truly terrifying. At that thought, Lin Xian looked ahead and sneered. What great emperor! It turned out that he was only half a frog. The green-robed great emperor coldly snorted. What a sharp-tongued ant! You will regret it soon. I will make you despair and make you regret being born into this world. The half-frog was also furious. He had been seriously injured in that battle. However, even though he was heavily injured and suppressed, he did not have the aura of death. This was enough to show how terrifying it was. Suddenly, the half-frog sneered. A red light flew out of its body and swept towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian used Shadowless Heaven's net and instantly retreated. However, his body was instantly enveloped. Damn it! This was the frog's unique skill. An ordinary frog could instantly capture a high-speed moving creature, let alone a great emperor. Kid, an ant is an ant. Do you see that? You can't compete with me at all. Half a frog enveloped Lin Xian, causing the black vortexes on Lin Xian's body to constantly shatter. Lin Xian gritted his teeth. He felt his entire body stiffen. The other party's attack was poisonous. He was poisoned in an instant. Half a heaven's swallowing jar. I will reluctantly accept it. The half-frog sneered. He controlled Lin Xian and flew towards the demon palace. Damn it! Lin Xian was extremely anxious. If he arrived in front of the other party, he would really die without a burial ground. No, use your full strength. Lin Xian took a deep breath. Great dragon. He growled. In the sword world, great dragon also extracted some power. In the next moment, the great dragon sword spirit erupted. Dragon scales appeared on Lin Xian's body. He bared his fangs and brandished his claws, turning into a divine dragon. The divine dragon swung its tail, and a sharp sword was unsheathed. At this moment, he seemed to have turned into the sharpest attack in the world and slashed forward. The half-frog's pupils shrank and instantly withdrew his attack. In the next moment, his face became incomparably ugly. Damn it, it was the power of the great dragon sword again. Damn it. He was so angry that he stomped his feet. The chains on his body were also shaking nonstop, making thunderous sounds. In the previous battle, he was split in half by the great dragon sword. Now, he was forced back by the great dragon sword. Although the power of the ant in front of him was not enough to hurt him, it was still a ruthless slap to his face. As a great emperor, being slapped in the face by a small ant made his lungs burst. He roared towards the sky, causing the entire demon palace to shake violently. Lin Xian's face also changed. Not good. He directly drilled into the heaven-swallowing jar. This was the wrath of a great emperor, more terrifying than any previous attack. Sure enough, the entire demon palace kept shattering. Fortunately, the Sea Demon clan had been ordered by Lin Xian to leave the Demon Sea and go to other places. Otherwise, they would have been turned into ashes. Those who did not escape in time all turned into a bloody mist. With it as the center, the entire burial Earth star began to shake violently. The sky fell and the Earth cracked. In the sky, endless cracks appeared. Everyone thought that the end of the world had come. What was going on? Even those from the Emperor clan were terrified. Extreme weapons bloomed, their brilliance enveloping the world. A few extreme weapons even flew out, enveloping the entire burial Earth star. They were automatically defending. What happened? The people from the Divine Union also walked out. The toad was so scared that it crawled on the ground. Damn it, why did it have a bad feeling? Murong Qingqing and Yan Ryu also came out of seclusion. It seemed to be coming from the Demon Sea. Not good. Big Brother Xian went to the Demon Sea. Could it be that something happened? They were really too nervous. The people from the Purple Mansion were also shocked. Such a scene made them think that the end of the world had come. In a secret realm in the Purple Mansion, the Purple Mansion master opened his eyes. His beautiful eyes were wide open. He was shocked. This aura? That was impossible. He seemed to have seen the most unbelievable thing. The next moment, he bit his finger and drew a mysterious rune between his eyebrows. Then he respectfully knelt on the ground. "Greetings, Father." An anxious voice was heard. At the same time, the blood-red rune between his eyebrows kept spinning. The next moment, a sleeping power in the depths of his soul woke up. It turned into a ray of light and appeared in front of him. It was a middle-aged man. His appearance was blurry, but the aura on his body was incomparably terrifying. The moment he appeared, he froze the world, and the entire Purple Mansion stopped shaking. Chapter 5550. The people from the Z government heaved a sigh of relief. Great, the crisis had been resolved. However, they didn't know that a mysterious impression had appeared in the depths of their Zifu. After the mysterious middle-aged man came out, he asked, "Why did you summon me? You can only use this kind of power a few times. Last time, it was the Mansion Lord of the Purple Mansion who was in life-threatening danger. That was why this mysterious middle-aged man appeared and protected her. Unexpectedly, not long after, his daughter summoned him again. After all, it was already very difficult for him to leave such power in his daughter's body. Moreover, it was not the right time for him to come out." The chief of the Purple Mansion hurriedly said, "Father, please calm down. Father, feel the aura outside." The mysterious middle-aged man frowned. He sensed for a moment, and in the next moment his expression changed drastically. "What is this?" A look of shock appeared in his eyes. The Purple Mansion's mansion master also said that his daughter didn't dare to be certain, which was why she summoned her father. The middle-aged man sensed for a moment before bursting into laughter. "Good daughter, you've done very well. You've done a great job in this matter. I'll reward you when we get back." "Thank you, Father." Headmaster Z was extremely agitated. At the same time he asked, "Father, is it really him?" "That's right. This was the aura of the green-robed great emperor. During the great battle back then, he was split in half by the great dragon sword. Half of his body fell off and disappeared. Later, due to some reasons, we were unable to return. Therefore, we can only send the Zifu sect to search for it. However, Many generations of Purple Mansion lords had tried their best, but they still hadn't been able to find it. Who would have thought that it would appear now? Moreover, the timing is quite good because it won't be long before we return to this land. His eyes were filled with excitement. He said, I'm going to tell the green-robed great emperor right now. He will definitely be happy when he finds out. Before the middle-aged man's voice disappeared, the light had already disappeared. The entire secret chamber regained its peace. The Purple Mansion lord took a deep breath and clenched his fists. Since the news had already spread, there was no need for him to worry about what would happen next. He believed that his father would make a move soon. Demon Sea. In the endless seabed, everything shattered and vanished. There was only one black jar floating in the air. It was the heaven-devouring jar. Within the heaven-swallowing jar, Lin Xian's face was also pale. Was this the power of a arch? It was really too terrifying. Right now, he was no match for him at all. Fortunately, this great emperor was still bound. Otherwise, he would have turned around and fled. Lin Xian used his Rinnegan to explore and find a way to strengthen the seal. Or he could provide a bit of devil chi. In this lifetime, he would never let the green-robed great emperor out. Lin Xian used the illusory devil scripture and released demonic energy into the devil palace to strengthen its defenses. At the same time, he mobilized the power of the demonic sea and pressed it down. The demonic runes on the demonic palace flickered once more, and the laws on them pulsed. Sensing this scene, Half Frog was furious. Ant, how dare you suppress me? He was still roaring angrily. Just you wait, I'll be out soon. Once I'm out, I'll make you wish you were dead. Lin Xian sneered. You still want to come out? Dream on. However, the green-robed great emperor didn't say anything else. She didn't retaliate either. Instead, she looked up at the sky. It seemed like he was waiting for something. In his heart, he thought that the voice just now should be able to travel out. If they received the news, they should come. Lin Xian didn't care at first. In his opinion, with the Devil Emperor's seal, Half Frog wanted to go out. It was simply a dream. However, he didn't know that outside Burial Earth Star, in the starry sky of the distant universe, there was a huge monster that was rapidly descending. It was also a projection, and it was also a frog. However, it was different from the other half of the frog that was sealed. The head of this half-frog cut through the universe and directly descended towards Burial Earth Star. At this moment, Burial Earth Star shook violently. Endless mountains and rivers shattered, and the 9 heavens split open. The people on Burial Earth Star all prostrated on the ground. The people of the monarch race also looked up at the sky. Heavens, what is that? They saw a huge phantom standing in the sky. That phantom was really too big. It seemed like it could shatter Burial Earth Star with a slap. This was an endless powerhouse from the void of the universe. But why did it make them tremble? An apex weapon actually automatically defended itself. Heavens, the might of a great emperor. Could it be that this is a great emperor? These people were all crazy. Weren't there no great emperors in this era? Yi Wudao, Kuan Pingzi, Qilin Sun, and the others were in despair. Their original goal was to become a great emperor. However, only one great emperor could appear in an era. Had someone already become a great emperor in advance? In Mount Eternal, countless people were terrified. What kind of power was this? The might of an emperor had appeared. Had the ancient tomb of an ancient great emperor come? They didn't think that a great emperor would appear in this era. However, in the depths of Mount Eternal, there was a mysterious and terrifying figure. He was the immortal sovereign of Mount Eternal. At this moment, he suddenly opened his eyes and looked up at the sky. Was the green-robed great emperor going to descend? In another forbidden area of the human realm, the human sovereign in the desolate forest also stood up. At this moment, the desolate forest was crawling. Only the human sovereign stood there with his hands behind his back. His body was filled with endless death chi, as if he was the grim reaper of hell. He stood up from an ancient coffin and looked up at the sky. The aura of the green-robed great emperor. Was the two halves of his body finally going to heal? It seemed that the time was coming. The time was coming. It wouldn't take long for them to descend. There was a trace of fear in his eyes, but at the same time, there was more anticipation. The two human sovereigns didn't stop him. Instead, they waited patiently. In the extreme path world, the black tortoise, the destructive war song, and other extreme weapons naturally felt it. They were also shocked. Damn it, this seemed to be the aura of a great emperor. It was the projection of half a frog. They heard that the great dragon sword had split a great emperor in half. It was the green-robed great emperor from the other side. Since then, the two halves of his body had never healed. This time, could it be that he was going to heal again? Damn it, he actually descended in advance. Was he crazy? The three apex weapons also frowned. This situation was completely out of their expectations. In the slanting moon cave in the extreme path world, Sun Qichen's body also trembled. He also looked up into the distance, but in the end he retracted his gaze. He stayed by the stone monkey's side. However, at this moment, in the deeper part of the palace, endless giant dragons condensed into a dragon mountain. There was a figure sleeping on it. At this moment, the figure's hand moved slightly. Slash! A low voice was heard. Like a phantom, it disappeared in an instant. Lin Xian didn't know any of this, but he also stopped moving. This was because he felt another great emperor's aura coming over. Chapter 55-51. What was going on? Another great emperor's aura? That was impossible. Had the second great emperor appeared? Lin Xian was stunned. Based on his guesses and the words of the great dragon sword soul, he realized that the great emperors were different from the legends. They weren't from one era. There was only one. It was even possible that those great emperors hadn't died yet. For example, the half-frog in front of him had been heavily injured and suppressed for tens of thousands of years. He was still alive. The other great emperors might also exist somewhere in the universe. However, the appearance of a second great emperor so quickly exceeded his expectations. However, DeLong's expression changed when he sensed this aura. Not good. It wasn't a second great emperor. It was the other half of the frog. They wanted to recover. What? The other half of the frog? Lin Xian was stunned for a moment before he realized what was going on. It should be the other half of the green-robed great emperor's body. The current green-robed great emperor was only half a half-emperor. If the other half of his body recovered, he would be a true great emperor. A complete great emperor was invincible. Even if Lin Xian had the heaven-devouring jar and the great dragon sword soul, he wouldn't be a match for him. Even if the apex weapons of the monarch races recovered, they probably wouldn't be able to defeat a true great emperor. After all, the difference in strength was too great. Even if they used all their strength, how many times could they recover their apex weapons? And every attack of a great emperor was basically the full recovery of an apex weapon. The difference was too great. It was so great that it was hopeless. The half-frog in front laughed. It's finally here. After waiting for countless years, this moment was finally here. His eyes were filled with excitement, and his body trembled. Then he glanced at Lin Xian. "Little Ant, are you in despair? Don't worry, this is just the beginning. I definitely won't let you die so easily. When I get out, I'll capture you and make you stay by my side for 10,000 years. I'll torture you every day and make you wish you were dead." As a great emperor, the green-robed great emperor had long thought of how to torture Lin Xian after being challenged by the little ant. Now he was waiting for the final fusion. Damn it, he definitely couldn't let them fuse. Lin Xian's eyes instantly turned red. He asked, "DeLong, do you have any ideas?" He was prepared to summon the phantom of the demon emperor to suppress and seal it again. However, DeLong said that it was useless. If the other half of the frog came, it would also have the strength of a half-emperor. Even if it was just an illusion, it was still extremely terrifying. If he were to bring another imperial armament with him, it would not be too troublesome for him to break the seal. The reason why they didn't succeed before was because no one knew where the half-frog was sealed. Now that he had found it, it was not difficult to break it. After all, it had been tens of thousands of years since the Demon Emperor's power. Lin Xian's expression became extremely ugly. If the seal didn't work, then what could he do? He felt that the other half of the frog's aura in the sky was becoming more and more terrifying. One of its claws had already reached down. He wanted to destroy the demon palace. The green-robed great emperor laughed uproariously. It's finally here. It's time to release the seal. I want to fuse. I want to recover. His voice grew louder and louder. Damn it, Lin Xian's teeth were about to shatter. He even wanted to use the sword whirl to directly swallow the other party. But in the end, he did not do so. Instead, he thought of another way. With a wave of his hand, he took out an hourglass of time and said, I will never let you fuse with it. It's useless. You, the successor of the Demon Emperor, are not my match at all. Unless you are the reincarnation of the Demon Emperor, then you might be able to stop me. But now, you're not even a quasi-emperor. What power do you have to stop me? He laughed out loud. Lin Xian said, I don't have any power, but what about the power of time? Wasn't it because they couldn't find you before that they didn't come to save you? So what if they found you now? I can make you disappear. I can make them never find you again. Lin Xian's eyes also lit up. Indeed, he still had the last hourglass of time in his hand. It could allow him to return to the past, and at the same time it could also allow the half-frog to return to the past. Although he didn't know how long it would last, as long as he could buy some time, he could always think of a way to deal with it. So Lin Xian decided to give it a try. The power of time? With just you? The half-frog looked disdainful. The power of time was so mysterious that even a great emperor might not be able to control it, let alone this little ant in front of him. However, when he saw the hourglass of time in Lin Xian's hand, he went crazy. He jumped up. Damn it! How can you have the power of time? The half-frog was completely stunned. Where did this kid come from? It was too strange. He could even take out the power of time. No. He roared again and increased his speed. He rushed into the sky, wanting to leave the demon palace. However, the demon palace bloomed with light, and the 9 chains on his body tightly bound him. He couldn't escape. He could only roar. Faster! Just a little faster! Above the 9 heavens, the projection of the other half-frog seemed to have heard it. He also let out a roar, and his huge body slammed down. Buried earth shook violently. Kid, hurry up and send the entire demon palace away. The dragon also roared anxiously. It was useless to just teleport half a frog. With the power of a pseudo-emperor, even if he went back to the past, he would have a way to come back. However, if it was a sealed pseudo-emperor, it would be difficult for him to come back after going back to the past. Lin Xian said clearly. He aimed the hourglass of time at the entire demon palace. He wanted the demon palace to go back to the past. 100,000 years ago, go back to the past. Lin Xian's hourglass of time slapped fiercely at the demon palace. The other half-frog was also enraged. And die for me. Now, the only thing he could do was to kill Lin Xian. He launched a terrifying attack. The power of a pseudo-emperor was too terrifying. Even though Lin Xian had the heaven-devouring jar, his body split open at this moment. Even his soul was affected. The dragon roared, forming a dragon shadow that enveloped Lin Xian. The heaven-devouring jar was even more unstable. It completely recovered and blocked the final attack. In an instant, with a bang, the hourglass of time slapped on the demon palace. Although Lin Xian's body was shattered, he smiled. Goodbye, half-frog. No. The half-frog roared crazily. He wanted to resist, but he realized that he couldn't do it at all. The demon palace was still sealing him. He could only watch helplessly as the power of time enveloped the entire demon palace. In the next moment, he disappeared. In the end, he left a sentence. Kid, even if I have to cross the universe, Even if I have to cross endless years, I will find you. I will kill you." Only the cold words echoed in the air as the entire demon palace disappeared. The half-frog sealed in the demon palace also disappeared. Boom! In the next moment, Lin Xian was sent flying again. The entire demon sea split open. A huge frog claw slapped down and pierced through the demon sea. Lin Xian's broken body entered the heaven-devouring jar. The heaven-devouring jar was sent flying. Chapter 55-52. At this moment, the buried Emperor Star was in danger because it had been penetrated. All the clans on the buried Emperor Star went crazy. Those great Emperor clans didn't dare to believe that the buried Emperor Star had been broken. It couldn't be. It was really an attack from a great emperor. These great emperor clans knew many ancient secrets. For example, countless years ago, there was a clan that had offended a great emperor. In the end, the great emperor had destroyed several worlds with a single finger of his finger. Now, there was a great emperor who had crossed the universe to attack the buried Emperor Star? But was this crazy? There was more than one great emperor buried in the buried Emperor Star, yet someone dared to attack it. Wasn't he afraid of disturbing the sleeping great emperor corpses? One must know that great emperors were incomparably mysterious. Even the great emperor clans were guessing if their old ancestor had really died. Thus, the current situation had shocked them to the core. As for the other clans and sects, they were even more shocked. Was the buried Emperor Star going to break? They had all gone crazy. They even wanted to escape. However, that huge phantom had enveloped the entire buried Emperor Star. Everyone was unable to resist and could only prostrate themselves on the ground. In front of the power of a great emperor, they were all ants. This was great. When the Purple Mansion Master saw this scene, the corners of his mouth rose. As long as the green-robed great emperor fused and recovered his true body, it would be a great merit. In the future, he would definitely have a lot of benefits. He might even be able to leave this place and return to the other side. Even becoming a quasi-emperor would only take an instant. When he thought of this, the Purple Mansion Master smiled happily. In Mount Eternal and Desolate Tomb, the two human supremes were also frowning. They even dared to penetrate the buried Emperor Star. From the looks of it, the green-robed great emperor was becoming more and more arrogant. However, this also indicated that they were about to return. Otherwise, the green-robed great emperor wouldn't have dared to do this. In the eyes of these supreme existences, the green-robed great emperor was about to recover. However, in the next instant, a crazy roar was heard. This roar was like the roar of a god. Even the thunder of the 9 heavens shattered. In the entire universe, a region was turned into a black hole. The stars near the buried Emperor Star were instantly turned into ashes. The great emperor's anger swept through the starry sky. The buried Emperor Star also suffered an intense impact. Many living beings turned into ashes. Those emperor clans also shouted angrily, "This won't do. Hurry up and join hands to activate the extreme Dao weapons." At this moment, as great emperor clans, they had to stand up and protect the buried Emperor Star. This was because the buried Emperor Star contained their clans and the tombs of their great emperors. They couldn't allow it to be destroyed. One after another, extreme weapons soared into the sky and joined forces to envelop the entire buried Emperor Star. The two human supremes also frowned. What was Green Robe angry about? Nothing. The leader of the Purple Mansion was also stunned. What was going on? There was no fusion as expected. Instead, it was incomparably furious. What exactly happened? The other half of the frog in the sky roared crazily and slapped the demonic sea again. At this moment, the buried Emperor Star was already protected by a lot of extreme Dao weapons. Therefore, when he attacked the buried Emperor Star, it gave rise to an overflowing aura. The buried Emperor Star shook but didn't shatter. Many people let out a sigh of relief. The half-frog was incomparably furious. Its gaze pierced through the 9 firmaments and the demonic sea. He began to search. No, none of them. Damn it. Lin Xian's heaven-devouring jar was also shaking nonstop in the Devil Sea. Lin Xian's blood and qi churned. His shattered body had already healed. This time he was really injured. However, he could be proud of himself for being able to teleport a half-step emperor away. Damn it, if this frog descended, would it destroy the buried emperor star? Lin Xian was incomparably worried. After all, he had angered an emperor. He was in great danger. The divine union was also in great danger. Even the buried emperor star might be destroyed. No, the time wasn't right. He had already broken the rules by coming early. If he could fuse and restore his true body, it would be fine. He would just have to pay a price. However, now that he had sent the other half of the frog away, it couldn't fuse at all. Next, he would be punished. Saying this, DeLong smiled mysteriously. Lin Xian was stunned. Just as he was about to ask what it was, a thunderbolt pierced through the 9 firmaments. This was a thunderbolt tribulation that came from the depths of the universe. It attacked the half-frog's phantom and pierced through its sharp claws. The huge claws fell down and turned into endless nomological laws before disappearing. At this moment, everyone was stunned. Countless martialists and sages looked up at the sky. Someone was attacking the power of an emperor? Who was it? Was another type of great emperor resurrected? The people from the emperor race were also excited. Was their old ancestor angry? However, that wasn't the case. A second emperor didn't appear. Instead, more and more thunderbolts condensed. These thunderbolts carried an ice-cold power as they attacked. There were even many flames in the surroundings that enveloped the half-frog. Everyone was terrified at this moment. What kind of power was this? Thunderbolts surpassed everything. They were more terrifying than any thunder Dao expert. This flame made countless fire elemental powerhouses despair. Even the Golden Crow race, the Fire Dragon race, and other top-notch fire attribute sects were terrified. They had never seen such flames before. Only one person knew, and that was Lin Xian. Lin Xian was dumbfounded. This was a thunder tribulation and a fire tribulation. He hadn't expected that the half-frog would have to go through such a tribulation. One must know that when Lin Xian fused with the divine flame seed, he had to go through a thunder tribulation and a fire tribulation. Naturally, he was very familiar with it. The Great Dragon Path wasn't just a simple thunder tribulation and emperor tribulation. He had broken the rules and had to be punished. Soon he would disappear. If he didn't wake up, he might vanish. Roar! The half-frog's crazy roar came from the sky, under the attack of the thunder tribulation and fire tribulation. Even though he had the strength of a half-emperor, he was still injured. At this moment, he was still heavily injured. No. Damn it. Why was it like this? Mansion Master Z's expression became extremely ugly. The joy of victory disappeared and was replaced by fear. The green-robed Great Emperor didn't fuse with the thunder tribulation and was attacked instead. This made him feel despair. The green-robed Great Emperor roared. Damn it, why wasn't it here? He probed one last time and covered the entire buried Emperor star. However, he didn't find anything. Damn it. Who was it? Who stole half of my body? No matter who it was, I won't let them off. The green-robed Great Emperor released a biting, cold-killing intent that swept through the entire buried Emperor star. At this moment, many people fainted from fright. Lin Xian's scalp went numb. This time he was really in danger. He was targeted by a Great Emperor, but soon he coldly snorted. So what if it was a Great Emperor? He raised his head and looked at the sky. The half-frog phantom in the sky had disappeared. Between heaven and earth, the power of the Great Emperor was gone, leaving behind only endless cracks. Chapter 55-53. It disappeared. The people on Burial Earth Star looked up at the sky. They all heaved a sigh of relief. They felt like they had survived a disaster. The two human sovereigns also frowned. They didn't succeed. What happened? They looked into the distance, but they didn't walk out of the forbidden land, because their time hadn't come. The Z Mansion also heaved a sigh of relief. However, the Z Mansion master's expression became incomparably ugly. Damn it, how is this possible? They failed. No, this is impossible. Who can tell me what's going on? He soared into the sky and flew toward the Demon Sea. At this moment, the Demon Sea was in chaos. Other than him, the people from the other Emperor clans also sent experts to investigate. They wanted to know what secrets were under the Demon Sea. However, there was one person who was faster than him. That was Lin Xian. Lin Xian had been attacked before, but he hid in the heaven-devouring jar. Now that the crisis was over, he walked out of the heaven-devouring jar and returned to the depths of the Demon Sea. With a wave of his hand, he took away all the remaining Emperor weapon fragments. The previous 7 Emperor weapon fragments were controlled by the half-frog, so Lin Xian didn't take them. Apart from that, there were also these 5 fragments that were stained with Emperor blood. The half-frog couldn't control these 5 fragments. He took all of them. When he looked around, there was nothing else. This was originally a sealed place. It was the place where the Demon Emperor sealed the half-frog. Other than the mysterious Demon Palace, there were only some Emperor weapon fragments. However, the Demon Palace had long disappeared in the passage of time. Lin Xian sensed that others had come. He took a deep breath and left with a sway of his body. Not long after he left, the Purple Mansion Master descended from the sky. The experts from the other Emperor clans also descended. Here they could sense an extremely terrifying information. What a terrifying demonic aura. There was also another type of corrosive aura. Who was it? Voices of discussion could be heard one after another. Under the Demon Sea, they actually felt the aura of 2 great emperors. Before this, they didn't notice it. It was too unbelievable. This is the method of a great emperor. It was hidden very well. If it wasn't for the terrifying projection in the sky this time, we wouldn't have noticed it. The Yi family's patriarch said in a deep voice. The Gu family and the Qilin clan also nodded. They continued to investigate. However, they found that there was nothing valuable around them. There was only a terrifying aura. Disappeared. Really disappeared. The Purple Mansion's mansion lord was stunned. He could clearly feel the great emperor's aura from the half-frog. How could it disappear? After all, that was a martial emperor. Even though only half of his body remained, he was still a half-martial emperor at the very least. It was an existence that transcended everything. When these people from the Emperor clan came here to investigate, as well as the other ancient aristocratic families and great sections. They quickly discussed among themselves. Did you see that? That huge projection seems to be a frog. Why do I feel that it has the aura of a great emperor? Could it be that someone in the universe has proven their Tao and become a great emperor? That's impossible. If that's the case, those from the Monarch clan should have known long ago. Moreover, we should be able to sense it. But what was that? Could it be that it wasn't a great emperor who had proven his Tao, but a former great emperor who was still alive? That was even more impossible. They had never heard of a frog becoming a great emperor. These people became even crazier. Even those from the Monarch clan frowned. Regarding the great emperor, even in the Monarch clan, it was the most core secret. Ordinary people didn't have the qualifications to investigate at all. Therefore, the geniuses of the Monarch clan also turned pale. Only the elders and grand elders frowned. It seemed that they had to activate some dusty scrolls. These powerhouses of the great Emperor clan returned to the deepest part of the clan. They opened the sealed scrolls. These scrolls were left behind by the great emperor himself, but they were usually sealed. At this moment, they were going to open them and investigate some of the great emperor's secrets. On this day, the people from the Monarch clan opened the sealed scrolls. Then, They sucked in a breath of cold air. The Yi family's patriarch cried out in surprise. It was actually like this. The Gu family's patriarch's pupils constricted. It was too inconceivable. The Phoenix clan and the Qilin clan were also shocked, because some of the information recorded in the scrolls completely exceeded their understanding. The Kuin Peng clan's patriarch closed his eyes. Beside him, Kuin Pengzi also sucked in a breath of cold air. The number of great emperors was more than they had imagined. More importantly, great emperors were too mysterious, surpassing everything. Their lifespans might be very long. It was impossible for them to break after 10,000 to 20,000 years. However, they had disappeared. Where did these great emperors go? Then, were our old ancestors really not dead? These people from the Great Emperor clan were excited. The legends of the great emperors were different from what they had heard. There wasn't only one great emperor in each era, and great emperors didn't only live for 10,000 to 20,000 years. Didn't that mean that the Void Great Emperor, the Yi family's Heavenly Emperor, and the Kuin Peng clan's Yin Yang Great Emperor were all alive? Then would they appear again? Or could it be that these great emperors would also die? Although they had lived for tens of thousands of years, they still couldn't escape the fate of the 6 paths of reincarnation? They weren't sure about this point. This information was only known to the core elders and top geniuses of the Great Emperor clan. The others were still in the dark because this matter was too shocking. It couldn't be spread. On the other side, the people from the Divine Union were also shocked and started discussing. At the same time, Murong Qingqing and the others were also worried about Lin Xian. When they saw that Lin Xian had returned safely, they heaved a sigh of relief. Big brother Xian, that's great. You're fine. What exactly happened? Yan Ryu also asked. Lin Xian said, it was hard to explain. This time, they had almost made a big mistake. Murong Qingqing said, oh right, the Phoenix clan's patriarch asked me to go over. He said that they want to open some scrolls of the Great Emperor's seal. Lin Xian was stunned when he heard this. He took a deep breath. Could some secret be about to appear? Before they could go, the old Phoenix had already arrived. They had already opened it. The old Phoenix came over to inform Qingqing about some information regarding the scrolls. Lin Gongzi, Princess Yenryu, come over too. The old Phoenix naturally wouldn't hide anything from the two of them, because they had the right to know. The few of them gathered in a secret room. Lin Xian was also curious. He asked, what exactly is the information in the scrolls? Chapter 55-54. The old Phoenix told them some of the information in the scroll. It was similar to the information of the other Great Emperor clans. However, this already shocked Murong Qingqing and Yan Ryu because it was completely different from what they had heard before. It was equivalent to subverting their understanding. Could this be the real world? They were too shocked that the great emperors had such a secret. Lin Xian had more experience, so he had already guessed it. At this moment, he was very calm. The old Phoenix was surprised. He looked at Lin Xian and said, Sir, aren't you shocked? Lin Xian said, I was also shocked when I first guessed it. However, I've already guessed it. You actually guessed it? The old Phoenix was shocked. Murong Qingqing and the others were also surprised because they still couldn't believe it. Especially the old Phoenix. The Emperor clans didn't know about this matter. If they hadn't opened the scrolls left behind by the great emperors, they would probably have been kept in the dark for the rest of their lives. However, Lin Xian said that he had already guessed it. How could he not be shocked? Could it be related to the experience in the Demon Sea? He asked, Sir, can you tell me what happened in the Demon Sea? Even Murong Qingqing and Yan Ryu were very surprised. After returning, Lin Xian didn't tell them in detail. Well, since you've even opened the scroll left behind by the great emperors and know something about the great emperors, I'll tell you about it too. This was because something unexpected might happen in the next moment. Lin Xian recounted everything that he had seen in the Demon Sea to him. The old Phoenix gasped. and Morong Qingqing and Yan Ryu were also shocked. You're saying that a great emperor was sealed under the Demon Sea? To be precise, it was half a great emperor. The projection that appeared outside the Tibetan Earth Star was the other half of the great emperor's body. Back then, it was split by the great dragon sword. The old phoenix was too shocked. It seemed that the situation recorded in the scroll was true. Back then, two great emperors were fighting, and one of them was the demon emperor. As for the demon emperor, he had sealed another great emperor. This great emperor had been injured by the great dragon sword. In other words, the devil emperor wasn't the only one who fought against the green-robed great emperor. There must be someone holding the great dragon sword to contend against it. This news was too shocking. They were especially shocked when they heard that the last martial monarch had almost recovered. They sucked in a breath of cold air. What happened in the end? Because they knew that they didn't succeed. Lin Xian said, "I used the power of time to send it back to the past. Therefore, he wouldn't be able to return anytime soon." Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Lin Xian had completely offended a great emperor. If that great emperor found out that it was Lin Xian, he would probably attack regardless of the consequences. No one dared to imagine what would happen if that happened. Therefore, when they looked at Lin Xian, they were very worried. Lin Xian said that since they had already offended him, what else could they do? Besides, wasn't there still time? Give me time, and I can also surpass the great emperor. Lin Xian's eyes erupted with an astonishing light. "All right, young master, you said that there would be an unexpected change. What would it be?" The old phoenix asked again. Lin Xian said, "Perhaps one day in the future, an unexpected good fortune would appear, but I'm not sure when it will happen. In short, we must be careful during this period of time." They discussed for a while more before the old phoenix left. The news he received from Lin Xian was also extremely important, so he had to hurry back to report it. Lin Xian was also in seclusion. Previously, although he had returned safely, he had still confronted a pseudo-emperor. He was still seriously injured, so he had to recover quickly. Lin Xian went into seclusion. He entered the sword world and prepared to recover. When he arrived at the sword world, he was also surprised. Heavens, is this really the sword world? He was stunned. He knew about the previous world, but he discovered that after entering this time, it was completely different. The spirit energy around the Four Spirit Valley was incomparable, as if it had turned into a fairyland. The originally withered ancient tree had already sprouted new buds. The spirit spring of life near it was constantly jumping. Not only that, this was only the original part. Lin Xian looked into the distance. The originally barren aura had also appeared green. Some withered trees had all been reborn. That's great. Lin Xian was overjoyed. It seemed that the power from before had indeed worked. Moreover, this change was not over yet. It was still slowly progressing. Lin Xian came under the ancient tree. He sat on the spirit spring and used the spirit spring of life to heal his injuries. This speed was really too fast. At the same time, Lin Xian took out 5 more fragments of the earth ice. Adding the one he had obtained before, he had 6 fragments of the emperor weapon. Each of them was not big, but they were stained with emperor's blood. This was the blood of the devil emperor. Lin Xian was prepared to refine the blood of the devil emperor. Perhaps there would be an unexpected effect when the time came. In the future, the enemies he would face would most likely be quasi-emperors. They might even fight against great emperors. He had to think of more methods. He had the illusion demon scripture and could summon the phantom of the devil emperor. If the phantom of the devil emperor fused with the blood of the devil emperor, what would happen? Lin Xian was looking forward to it. Just like that, Lin Xian recovered from his injuries in the sword world while refining the blood of the devil emperor. The people of the Divine Union received the notice and did not go out. Instead, they all looked for a place to cultivate. Burial Earth Star calmed down once again. The Devil's Sea that had been pierced through was also slowly recovering. However, the people of the various great emperor clans frowned. This was because they felt a sense of fear. Perhaps something was going to happen next. Some of the great emperor clans even decided to open the earth tomb to see if their ancestor had really died. Or was he still alive? On the side of the great emperor clans, the Purple Mansion Master was also anxiously waiting. He wondered if he would be punished this time. Finally, on this day, his body shook and a terrifying power emerged from the depths of his soul. Then, it turned into a mysterious middle-aged man. "Greetings, Father." The Purple Mansion Master was very respectful. He said, "Father, your daughter deserves to die. I did not investigate the situation. Please punish me." The middle-aged man said in a deep voice, "This matter is not your fault. I asked the green-robed Great Emperor, and he said that he had indeed sensed the other half of his body. Moreover, it only disappeared the moment he was about to make a move. In other words, someone had teleported his body away. Someone with such ability was definitely not simple. Even a quasi-emperor could not do it. It was very likely that it was one of the enemies from back then, or perhaps the Devil Emperor had prepared some backup plans. Therefore, this matter cannot be blamed on you." Hearing this, the Purple Mansion Master heaved a sigh of relief. Great, he was safe. At this moment, the mysterious man said again, "Prepare yourself. In 3 years we will arrive." Chapter 55. 3 years later? So soon? The Purple Mansion Master was shocked. In his opinion, it would take at least 10 years, or even a few decades, or even 100 years. After all, at their level, 100 years would pass in the blink of an eye. 3 years had passed in the blink of an eye. The mysterious man said that the process had indeed been brought forward. It should be because of the green-robed emperor. He tried to force his way in, but failed and even triggered the lightning and fire tribulations. That was why it had been brought forward. In short, although it was brought forward, their plan would not change. In 3 years, they would rule the world. The Purple Mansion Master was excited. His lips curled into a smile. The moment had finally arrived. "Humph, Linwoody. Just wait and see." When the time came, all these people would crawl under their feet. In the following period of time, Burial Earthstar was quiet again. Lin Xian and the rest were also cultivating in seclusion because they knew that the heaven and earth anomaly was coming. In the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed. On this day, Lin Xian and the rest came out of seclusion to relax. However, they heard many strange things. The Divine Union had been collecting information. These things had happened in other worlds in the universe. For example, in the sky of some worlds, a flaming eye had appeared and shrouded the world. In other worlds, the ground had split open and people had crawled out from below. One after another, they covered the sky and covered the earth. A forest of bones had swept out in all directions. In fact, one of the moons in the universe had been swallowed. In other regions of the universe, plants had suddenly grown. Those plants were very scary. They covered the sky and shrouded the surrounding worlds. Upon hearing this, Morong Qingqing and the rest frowned. Lin Xian was also surprised. Such things had never happened before. Even if it had happened, it would have been done by a strong person. However, they had not discovered any strong person behind this. There could only be another explanation, which was the heaven and earth anomaly. It seemed like DeLong had said that they would be coming soon. I wonder what kind of changes will take place next. However, Lin Xian knew that his enemies would be coming soon. At the thought of this, he clenched his fists. His current strength was the Triple Crown King, and his cultivation was at the peak of the Great Sage. Compared to when he had just entered this realm, his nomological laws were much stronger. However, he was still a distance away from breaking through to the quasi-emperor level. Of course, there was no bottleneck for Lin Xian to break through to the quasi-emperor level. He needed resources. In the past, Lin Xian had obtained many resources from the great emperor clans. However, that time he chose to evolve the sword world, so his own improvement was not much. However, he did not regret Swords of the Eye, the recovery of the sword's eyes. Another thing was that Lin Xian had only injured the Triple Crown champion. It was said that there was a 10-crown king in the past. Lin Xian asked Dalong what cultivation level 10-crown king was at. Dalong's answer to him was that he was below the Great Emperor. The Great Emperor was an existence that was above the king. Although the quasi-emperors below the Great Emperor were called quasi-emperors, they had only stepped out of the sage realm. They were emperors. However, according to the Triple Crown King, as long as one became a quasi-emperor, they should have the strength of the 5-crown king. Among the quasi-emperors, the 10-crown king was the strongest. He could be called the strongest existence below the emperor. Lin Xian was the Triple Crown King now. In other words, before he broke through to the quasi-emperor level, he could still become the Quadruple Crown King. Lin Xian even had the divine fire seed. He might even become the Quadruple Crown King before becoming a quasi-emperor. This way, his strength would be even more terrifying. Right now, Lin Xian could only contend against quasi-emperors. Quasi-emperors could not do anything to him. If he wanted to kill quasi-emperors, he would have to use an extreme weapon. Once he became the Quadruple Crown King, he would be able to kill the other party with his own strength. In fact, Lin Xian felt that he could even become the Quadruple Crown King. All right, let's become the Quadruple Crown King first. Lin Xian's eyes shone with an extremely cold light. He entered the sword world. At this moment, the sword world was recovering very well. Some of the originally desolate places also changed. Mountains, waterfalls, rivers, and valleys were formed. All kinds of scenery and landforms made Lin Xian happy. Lin Xian also began to try stepping into these places to cultivate. He even discovered that a tree had grown in the originally desolate place. There were fruits on the tree. After Lin Xian ate them, he felt the great Tao in his body boil. This was more terrifying than any spirit fruit he had ever eaten. It couldn't even compare to the ones in the Four Spirit Valley. After all, the ones in the Four Spirit Valley were transplanted from the outside by Lin Xian, and the one he ate was originally grown in the sword world. It was just that it was withered in the past and now it had recovered. Lin Xian felt that this fruit was comparable to his decades of bitter cultivation and comprehension. His laws and strength had increased by a large amount. This left Lin Xian dumbfounded. Didn't that mean that even if he didn't cultivate, as long as he ate the fruits in the sword world, he would be able to break through to the quasi-emperor level sooner or later? F***CK, what kind of world is this? It's too terrifying. However, Lin Xian also discovered that this fruit was extremely rare. After eating one, he looked around but couldn't find a second one. However, he wasn't in a hurry. Since this fruit could recover, then the others would definitely appear as well. It really made one look forward to it. Just like that, Lin Xian began to cultivate in the sword world. 3 crowns bloomed on his head, emitting a terrifying radiance. It revealed his identity as the Triple Crown King. The people from the other families and sects were also carefully dealing with it. They were investigating all kinds of situations. The Wind Clan was relatively calm. However, some situations had occurred in the past few days. It even made the Wind Clan's hair stand on end. The Wind Clan, as an ancient family, could be considered a large clan. Apart from the Emperor clan, they were considered the top group. They had a lot of resources in their hands, including many spirit veins and even metal mountain ranges. Among them was a spirit jade mountain range. The spirit jade mountain range was very good, like a small dragon. The spirit jade mountain range was surrounded by countless array formations, and there were special warriors in charge of mining here. They continuously provided spirit jade to the Wind Clan. However, on this day, the 15th elder, who was in charge of the spirit jade mountain range, had an extremely ugly expression on his face. Just last night, one of the teams in charge of mining, about 20 people had mysteriously disappeared. They searched the entire mountain range, but couldn't find them. More importantly, the soul jade tablets of these 20 people were also shattered. This meant that these 20 people had fallen. They had inexplicably fallen. Was someone ambushing their Wind clan? Who was it? The 15th Elder's expression was solemn. This wasn't the end. The next night, another team inexplicably disappeared. And then they fell. It was the same for 3 days in a row. So much so that the martial artists and saints in the Spirit Jade mountain range felt their hair stand on end. Chapter 55-56. Elder, what should we do? Is there really a sneak attack? Some of the young warriors were about to cry. 15th Elder's face was also cold. Another woman beside him said, Elder, why don't we ask the family for help? 15th Elder snorted coldly. Asking the family for help for such a small matter. What would the family think? Would it make us look incompetent? Don't say any more. I'll personally take charge tonight. That's great, the surrounding disciples cheered. 15th Elder was a sage, and his strength was very terrifying. With him personally taking charge, they would definitely be safe. Night came. The crescent moon was like a plate, and light shone down, enveloping the mountain range. However, in the latter half of the night, a dark cloud floated past, covering the moonlight. The mountain range also darkened. The disciples shuddered, and even the 15th Elder's heart sank. There were many sages here, and he was a sage. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't care. But now he had a bad premonition that something was about to happen. He shouted coldly, All of you, be alert and activate the formation. The other teams patrolled each other, not allowing any place to be missed. Yes, one after another, responses came. The surrounding formation was activated. The valley instantly became as bright as day. The surrounding patrolling teams held swords and sabers in their hands, and their bodies were filled with laws. They were facing a great enemy. No matter who came to ambush them this time, they would not be able to return. After waiting for a long time, there was no danger. The surrounding people all heaved a sigh of relief. Great, nothing happened. However, at this moment, a gust of cold wind blew past, and those formations instantly dimmed. Not good. 15th Elder's pupils constricted. Suddenly, he heard someone scream behind him. He suddenly turned his head. In the next moment, his expression instantly changed. Standing behind her, there were originally 10 people, but now there was only 1 left. Where were the other 9 people? 15th Elder shouted angrily. The remaining man was so scared that he knelt on the ground. His face was pale because he didn't know what had happened. Could it be that they had been teleported away? Could it be that they were spatial experts? 15th Elder furrowed his brows tightly. He carefully sensed, but he didn't sense any spatial law power. This made him frown even more. Even if the Gu family made a move, there would be information about spatial law. But now there was none. At this moment, another scream rang out. One of the patrol teams had disappeared. Only the sword and saber fell to the ground. Damn it! Team 15 rushed over like a bolt of lightning, but he still couldn't find the enemy. When he came back, he found that the person who was kneeling on the ground had disappeared. 15th Elder's pupils shrank. Her expression became uglier and uglier. In the next few seconds, screams came from the other 2 patrolling martial artists. In the next moment, the entire mountain range became quiet. It was as if only the 15th Elder was left in the array. 15th Elder's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Damn it, what happened? He roared towards the sky. Who dares to sneak attack our Wind clan? Get your ass out here. However, no one answered. In the next moment, the 15th Elder felt a chill run down his spine. It seemed like someone was sneak attacking him. As a saint, he was very powerful. The laws behind him instantly condensed into a shield. At the same time, he charged forward. With a clang, the shield was torn apart, and his back was torn open. Blood dripped down and white bones appeared. The 15th elder was in so much pain that he almost fainted. He suddenly turned his head and saw an arm retract. Then it disappeared. Damn it, what was going on? 15th elder was dumbfounded. In the next moment, his back was attacked again. This time, half of his body was torn apart. 15th elder's soul escaped. Finally, he saw it clearly. In the jade vein, there were a few black shadows flashing. Those black shadows were standing in the jade vein. What was this? How could there be people in the jade vein? 15th elder was stunned. In the next moment, his scalp went numb. Originally, he wanted to escape, but he found that the entire mountain range, front, back, left, right, sky, and earth had all appeared. There were so many black shadows that it made one's scalp go numb. 15th elder screamed and wanted to tear the void to escape. However, in the next moment, those black shadows stretched out their palms from the jade vein and grabbed his soul. They tore his soul into pieces. Then, in the entire spirit domain mountain range, all the Wind Clan warriors and saints were torn apart by these mysterious black shadows. They were brought into the jade vein. During the entire process, not a single drop of blood was left. Only some weapons fell to the ground. The moon disappeared and the sun rose. Sunlight shone on the world. However, the entire jade spirit mountain range was empty. It was terrifyingly quiet. The Wind Clan knew about the news here immediately. The entire Wind Clan was shocked. What was going on? 15th elder's soul jade tablet was shattered. Had he died? Impossible. 15th elder was a saint and was very powerful. Even if he couldn't win, he could escape. At the very least, he could ask for help. But now there was nothing. They only knew that 15th elder had died. It seemed that something had happened in the Jade Spirit Mountain Range. Go and take a look. The patriarch of the Wind Clan gave the order. He shouted coldly, "I want to see who dares to go against the Wind Clan." This time, the 3 elders led a group of saints and set off quickly after the order was given. They rowed the Maple Leaf Spirit Boat and headed to the Jade Spirit Mountain Range at an extremely fast speed. However, when they arrived, they were also stunned. Their eyes were wide open and their mouths were agape, because the entire Jade Spirit Mountain Range was empty. What was going on? These experts of the Wind Clan quickly arrived. They began to search. Soon they came back and gathered. Their faces were terrifyingly dark. One of the middle-aged men said, "They didn't find anyone." Another old man said, "Other than some dropped weapons, the others had disappeared." What was going on? Was there a big battle? One of the elders frowned. However, they soon found that there were no traces of a battle. Could it be that the enemy was so terrifying that they were all killed in an instant? That shouldn't be. Did the sacred Lord make a move? If it was a saint ancestor, he could indeed kill 15th elder and the others in an instant. After all, the sacred Lord was an existence that stood at the peak of the saints. However, such a figure had a terrifying status even in the Wind Clan. He wouldn't make a move easily. Moreover, although the Jade Spirit Mountain Range was precious, it wasn't enough for the sacred Lord to make a move. It wasn't that precious. Therefore, they were very puzzled. They went to investigate again. One of the elders said, "These people investigated for an entire day, but they didn't find anything. They had no choice but to return to the clan to report." When the news was sent back, the Wind Clan was also surprised. The people had disappeared and they didn't know who the enemy was. Damn it! Sneak attack! So despicable. Some people gritted their teeth. The patriarch of the Wind Clan also snorted coldly. He would pay close attention to see if there were any clues. Since he didn't know who the enemy was, there was nothing he could do. However, he didn't know that this matter didn't only happen in the Wind Clan. Following that, people from the Sure Clan, the Sirius Clan, the Raging Fire Clan, and other clan of the ancients mysteriously disappeared. Chapter 55-57. These were all remote antiquity families and they were very powerful. However, someone had mysteriously disappeared, and it wasn't just one person. There were many people. These people were also at the place where the spirit vein was located, and all of them were in the spirit domain mountain range. For a moment, the remote antiquity families were shocked and angry. They sent people to search. Who was the enemy? Some people even speculated that it should be the great emperor family. It was very quiet, and it was very likely that it was the Gu family, because this method was too similar to the space law. However, the next situation was even more shocking because the people of the Quimpin clan also disappeared. This shocked countless people. They didn't expect that after the remote antiquity families, it was the emperor family. Who dared to attack the emperor family? It couldn't be Lin Wudi, right? Only he dared to challenge the emperor family. Some people shook their heads. It was impossible. Didn't they know what kind of person Lin Wudi was? If he wanted to attack, he would directly attack the emperor family's mountain gate. Why would he launch a sneak attack like this? This didn't suit his style. Yes, that's right. Lin Wudi was a madman. If he wanted to attack the emperor family, he would attack head-on. Countless discussions could be heard, and those from the emperor family also felt that this was the case. If it wasn't the emperor family, who could it be? They even felt that it was the Gu family. The Gu family felt very wronged. They said that it wasn't them. Just as these people were targeting the Gu family, there were also people from the Kirin clan who mysteriously disappeared. Some people were shocked. It was definitely not the Gu family. Then who was it? Could it be the Forbidden Land of Life? Because they had fought with the two Forbidden Lands of Life before. Back then, nothing happened. Now that peace had returned, how could the two Forbidden Lands of Life just let it go? However, they didn't have any evidence. They could only send people to investigate secretly and even keep an eye on the two Forbidden Lands of Life to see if they had made a move. When the news spread, the people of the Divine Union were also surprised and discussed animatedly. Bai Susu warned everyone. They had to be careful. The people of the Divine Union all took a deep breath. They knew more about the situation. Lin Xian had said that there might be unexpected changes in the next period of time. Therefore, these people didn't dare to go out. They all cultivated in the mountain gate, and it was safe. However, on this day, a middle-aged man rushed over. His face was pale. "Father, why are you here?" Bai Susu was shocked. The person who came was his father, Elder Bai. Elder Bai said, "Someone disappeared from the path." What? Bai Susu was shocked. Was it the same as the clan of the ancients? Elder Bai nodded. The Crimson Dragon, Toad, and the others were also shocked when they heard the news. The experts of the Divine Union gathered together and started asking questions. Elder Bai briefly explained the situation. It was similar to the situation of the Wind Clan. Are you saying that it disappeared in the Jade Vein? The Crimson Dragon frowned. Nailan Liang said, "That's right. According to the information we gathered, the other monarch clans and remote antiquity clans also disappeared in the spirit veins. Moreover, it was specifically targeted at the Spirit Jade mountain range." Bai Susu and the others frowned. "Ruzalong, what do you think?" Ruzalong was an expert in array formations and could mobilize the spirit veins under the ground. Therefore, the other party might know something about it. The Crimson Dragon frowned. "I can't think of anything at the moment, but I can go and take a look." "Elder Bai, please lead the way." Elder Bai nodded. The group rose into the air and headed for the path. Both sides were in the same ancient city, so they were very fast. When they arrived, the atmosphere in the path was also tense. Great! It was the experts of the Divine Union. The disciples in the path cheered when they saw the Crimson Dragon, Bai Susu and the others. The Divine Union was not weaker than the monarch clans. With the Divine Union here, the path was definitely safe. Bring me to the Spirit Mountain Range. After the Crimson Dragon arrived, he looked around the path sect and used the Earth scripture to feel it. He found that there was nothing wrong, so they immediately headed for the Spirit Language mountain range. The back mountain of the path was endless. There was a Spirit Jade mountain range. The Spirit Jades here could be made into crystals for the path disciples to absorb and cultivate. However, there was a problem here. The experts who had been mining and guarding here had all disappeared mysteriously. Even the savage desolation ancestor came. He said, "We looked around and didn't find anything. We also found that many remote antiquity clans were like this." The Crimson Dragon asked, "Didn't you guys guard here?" The savage desolation ancestor said, "Yes, Huan Sure and I have been guarding here for a few days, but we didn't see anything." The Crimson Dragon snorted. How cunning. It seemed like he had to find a new jade vein. Is there any more? There's a more remote one that hasn't been used much. The savage desolation ancestor said. The Crimson Dragon's eyes lit up. Good, that's it. Get ready, we'll go. The savage desolation ancestor nodded. This time he was also ready to go. Finally, they arrived at a spirit jade mountain range. The Crimson Dragon, by Susu, and the others stopped. They even brought some seeds and pretended to be moving. Soon, the disciples started to dig in the mountain range. All day long, the noises were heard, but nothing happened until night fell. However, the Crimson Dragon frowned and said, "I feel an unusual force. Everyone be careful." Just as he finished speaking, there were screams. Everyone turned around and saw that a few disciples had disappeared. Damn it, what happened? Baisusu stood up. Her face was pale. Although she was an expert, she was still a girl. She was still afraid of such a mysterious thing. The toad also jumped up. Damn it, what's so strange? Get out here. There was an angry shout, but nothing happened. However, there was a sound behind him, and something attacked him. The toad was shocked. He turned around and attacked. "I'll spit on your face." It spat out venom. The sound of corrosion could be heard in the air, and a few black holes appeared. The toad dodged. However, they still didn't find anything. The savage desolation ancestor snorted. Should I destroy the entire jade vein? A hint of sharpness appeared in his eyes. To him, it was just a matter of a punch. The Crimson Dragon said, "No, the most important thing now is to find out who the enemy is." At this point, he used the Earth Scripture and prepared to use the power of the Spirit Jade mountain range. However, at the next moment, his pupils constricted. Damn it, what's going on? Be careful. There's something in the spirit vein. With that, he waved his dragon claw and slapped the ground. Come out. He used the Earth Scripture to form a mysterious formation that spread in all directions. In the next moment, the entire spirit vein shook. Then, the surrounding people saw an unbelievable scene. Figures appeared in the surrounding spirit veins, one figure after another. Chapter 55-58. What's that? When they saw this figure, the surrounding people were extremely shocked. They were shocked. They didn't expect there to be such a mysterious existence hidden in the spirit vein. Could it be that the disappearance of those people had something to do with these mysterious figures? The savage ancestor was also shocked. As a powerful sacred lord, he didn't notice it. If he wasn't the Crimson Dragon and a top-tier array master, he probably wouldn't have noticed it either. It was no wonder that the clan of the ancients fell for it. It was so strange. *CK, what's that? The toad asked. The Crimson Dragon frowned. He said he didn't know, but he felt that it was very strange. Terrifying laws appeared on their bodies. The black figures that appeared from the jade vein were everywhere, and their numbers were increasing. In the next moment, they attacked crazily. Black claws reached out of the spirit vein and grabbed at the Crimson Dragon and the others. The pitch-black claws, with a trace of gloomy and cold aura, covered the world. Get lost! The Crimson Dragon roared and slapped with his claws. The toad, Baisusu, and the others also attacked quickly. Some of the Path Sect's disciples also attacked. Soon, the weaker disciples started to scream miserably. Their bodies were torn apart and then captured into the spirit vein. As soon as they entered, they disappeared. They really disappeared. Baisusu's face was pale and the toad frowned. It was indeed these guys. They found the source. I'll do it! The savage ancestor roared. He took a step forward, and the power in his body exploded. Savage God Fist. A terrifying fist hit the spirit vein, and this punch directly penetrated it. The sky and earth shook, and the black figures walked out of the spirit vein. They were extremely angry. Heavens, what's that? Baisusu was shocked. When these black figures came out, they were also pitch black. They only had a pair of narrow eyes and mouths. They didn't have noses or ears. It was very strange. Their bodies floated as if they didn't have bones, and the murderous aura on them was shocking. What are they? Everyone attacked and retreated. The savage ancestor roared and sent them flying with a punch. The black forest in front of them was sent flying, and their bodies broke apart like water. However, the black creatures also seemed to know of the Wildlands Patriarch's existence. They quickly condensed. Because they had no bones, their bodies were like water, quickly condensing to form an even larger black figure. He was as indomitable as a demon king. The power on it also increased exponentially. In the next moment, with a single palm strike, a boundless amount of energy pushed the Grandmaster Savage back. Toad! And the others cried out in surprise. They could actually merge. This was too strange. The Wildlands Patriarch was infuriated. He fought a great battle, slaughtering his way over. However, that black creature was still able to fuse with it. More and more silhouettes walked out of the spirit vein. There seemed to be no end to them. The Crimson Dragon furrowed his brows tightly. He used the Earthly Sutra and kept probing. He inspected the situation of the spirit veins under the ground. His expression became extremely ugly. He said, "Damn it, there were so many of them." He said that the Wildlands Patriarch shouldn't attack him because he wouldn't be able to kill him. Attack the jade vein and shatter it completely. After the Wildlands Patriarch heard this, his body swayed and he punched the ground with both fists. The surrounding spirit veins kept shattering. The black creatures in front were finally enraged. They let out a shrill cry. Their attacks were extremely fast, charging towards the Wildlands Patriarch. It was effective. The Wildlands Patriarch laughed out loud. Then he took out a mace from his storage ring and swung it. His strength was so terrifying that he could shatter the jade vein in just a few moves. The black figures wrapped around their bodies and shrunk again, turning back into countless black creatures. Then they entered the shattered jade vein and disappeared. Did they leave? After waiting for a long time, seeing that no one came out, Baisusu heaved a sigh of relief. The toad also frowned. Damn, this is too strange. The Wildlands Patriarch snorted coldly and attacked continuously, shattering all the surrounding spirit veins. The Crimson Dragon said, "It's useless. The other spirit veins are useless. Only the jade vein works." "What is it? Do you know?" the Wildlands Patriarch asked. The Crimson Dragon shook his head. "I can only detect it because I have the Earth Scripture. They only exist in the jade vein, but I don't know what they are exactly." Just as he finished speaking, the Crimson Dragon's expression changed, and he retreated quickly. The surrounding people were stunned. By the time they wanted to retreat, it was already too late. From the shattered spirit veins, a few black runes flew out and entered their bodies. Damn it, how dare they sneak attack? The Wildlands Patriarch held the mace. He rushed over and broke the ground completely. But he realized that those people were long gone. After he returned, he asked, "Are they all injured?" Baisusu shook his head. However, there was a black rune on the back of his hand, Elder by the Wildlands Patriarch and the surviving disciples of the Tao. It was the same. They were all hit. Only the Crimson Dragon was fast enough to dodge this attack. What was this thing? It didn't seem to have any effect. They didn't care. Let's go back. The group returned. Let's go back and discuss. These people returned along the way, but there was a change on the way. Baisusu's face turned pale, and the toad jumped up. Damn it, one of his claws had changed. It had turned into a jade-like existence. It was so fragile that it would shatter with the slightest touch. Baisusu's hands were the same. They became beautiful, like the most exquisite jade. However, he was incomparably terrified. His entire body was about to turn into jade. The surrounding disciples and even the Wildlands Patriarch were the same. However, the Wildlands Patriarch was very strong, so only a few of his fingers changed. The others weren't in such a good situation. At this speed, they would turn into jade people soon. In that case, all their laws would disappear, and they would shatter with the slightest touch. Their souls would be destroyed. How could this be? The toad jumped up. Damn it, I knew this thing was dangerous. The Crimson Dragon's expression was also solemn. He went back first and increased his speed. They quickly returned. After returning, the other patriarchs of the Tao also came and asked. When they learned about the situation, they were even more shocked. A mysterious monster walked out of the jade and you were all attacked. Do you know what it is? These patriarchs of the Tao quickly investigated, but they realized that they didn't know how to contact the other merchant families. Yenryu also came out. After learning about the situation, he frowned. However, there was still no news. No, he had to inform Lin Xian. Yenryu said, although she knew that Lin Xian was cultivating now, the situation in front of her was too strange. If he didn't save these people, they would be reduced to ashes.
Chapter 55-59. After Lin Xian learned of the situation, he also opened his eyes and walked out of the sword world. After he arrived, he checked the situation of the toad and the others, and then his face became ugly. How could it turn into jade? What's going on? Tell me in detail. The Crimson Dragon told him what had happened, including the other remote antiquity families. After Lin Xian heard this, his brows furrowed tightly. He said that it seemed that the change of the world had already begun. As for what this was, Lin Xian didn't know. So he asked DeLong. DeLong was also surprised after hearing the description. The one you're talking about is very similar to the Jade Man from before. However, it has been many tens of thousands of years since they last appeared, and now the Jade Man has appeared once again. This means that they will descend soon. Jade Man, what is that? Lin Xian was surprised. He had never heard of it before. DeLong said that it was a creature that existed in jade. It should also belong to one of the 10,000 ancient races. The 10,000 ancient races were extremely terrifying, and they were the most supreme existences in the primordial era. However, after the great changes in the world, after countless years, only a few of them were passed down. Some of them either disappeared or fell into a deep sleep. For example, the Light Clan was also one of the 10,000 ancient races back then. They were so powerful, but in the end, didn't they still disappear into thin air? The Jade Man was one of them back then. Those who were attacked by them would turn into jade and disappear into thin air. Can it be cured? Lin Xian asked. This time, the ones who were injured were his good friends. He couldn't just watch as these people died. DeLong said, yes, as long as they could find their original bodies. The Jade Man was evolved from a piece of jade. This kind of jade was called the Spirit Jade. There were very few of them, and each time they appeared, the type would be different. Therefore, he didn't know which Spirit Jade had awakened this time. He had to find the Spirit Jade. Only by using the power contained in the Spirit Jade could it be dissolved. So that's how it was. These Jade Men were all formed from a piece of divine jade. After Lin Xian heard this, he took a deep breath. The next step was to find this piece of Spirit Jade. He didn't know where DeLong was. Lin Xian didn't know either. However, he had a way. All he had to do was capture the person in the jade and search his soul. Lin Xian walked out and explained the situation. Patriarch Wildlands and the others were shocked. Were they the 10,000 ancient tribes? Had they disappeared and reappeared? From the looks of it, the world had really changed. Morong Qingcheng, Yenryu, and the others were also surprised. Lin Xian had said that the weather would change in the next few days. They didn't believe it at first, but now it seemed like it was about to begin.
Next, he would look for the heavenly spirit jade. The crimson dragon said, "I will go out and search for the spirit jade mountains, then set up a trap and capture them." Next, these people began to move. Lin Xian worked with the other patriarchs to seal the injured patriarch Wildlands, the toad by Susu and the others in ice. "Brat, you have to be quick. I don't want to become a toad." "Lin Xian, I'll leave the rest to you," by Susu said. Lin Xian nodded. He and the fantasy world patriarch worked together to form a huge ice palace. They sealed them in ice. By Susu, the toad, and the others fell into a deep sleep. Next, Lin Xian and the others began to move. The crimson dragon searched for the spirit jade mountains first. Then they set up a formation. At the same time, Lin Xian took a deep breath. The world had changed. The first one was the person in the jade. What would happen next? In the divine union, after the people in the Tao were injured, the other ancient families and great sects were also affected. They had turned into jade as well. In an instant, many people had completely turned into jade. Then, countless cracks appeared on their bodies. After shattering, their souls were destroyed. This scene terrified countless people because it couldn't be suppressed. Apart from using ice to delay it, there was no other way to break it. Furthermore, they had no idea exactly what those black creatures were. "Freeze!" The Yi family patriarch shouted angrily, sealing the injured people in ice. The Kuan Peng tribe and the Qilin tribe also took action. However, this could only delay it for a short period of time. Their faces turned ugly. Since when did such a terrifying existence appear in Burial Earthstar? Even their martial monarch clans were helpless against it. Lin Xian had already found a jade mountain. It was a very good neighboring mountain. Those people in the jade would definitely come over to absorb the energy here. Therefore, they began to wait. The crimson dragon set up a top-notch formation, using the other spirit veins in the surroundings. Fire-based spirit veins, metal spirit veins, and delayed spirit veins were used to set up a formation. Even the top-notch formation couldn't be seen. This was the power of a geomaster. This time, Lin Xian came personally to suppress the person in the jade. When night fell, a figure appeared in the jade mountain, wanting to launch a sneak attack. However, Lin Xian had been waiting for them. An extremely terrifying light burst out from his eyes. The power of reincarnation illuminated the entire world. The crimson dragon snorted coldly. Since they had come in, they couldn't leave. The dragon waved its claws, activating the formation and sealing the surroundings. In the Jade Mountain, those people in the jade stood inside and roared crazily. Every shadow was baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. It was very strange. Lin Xian snorted coldly and punched out, shattering the Jade Mountain. The people in the jades all fell out, covering the sky and covering the earth as they attacked. There were many of them. However, Lin Xian sneered. The Taiji diagram in his hand flew out, and the yin and yang sword qi turned into a sea of swords. It charged straight forward. The two sides collided, and the people in the jade were all split apart. The people in the prison also screamed crazily. They didn't expect the young man in front of them to be so powerful. Their broken bodies quickly merged like water droplets. Then, an even more terrifying existence was formed. With a slash, it split heaven and earth. Lin Xian snorted. His divine body bloomed, and terrifying flames swept out. At the same time, the demonic realm descended. A demonic palace descended from the sky and suppressed the people in the jade. The people in the jade roared crazily, and many arms appeared on his body. There are a total of 12 arms, and they kept dancing. Each arm was holding a weapon, and they were dancing crazily. The demonic world mirage was actually shaking nonstop. "Kid, hurry up and suppress him completely. Otherwise, more and more monsters will fuse." Indeed, the savage wilderness ancestor was forced back last time because there were too many monsters fusing behind him. Lin Xian said, "Don't worry, leave it to me." Endless sword qi appeared on his body. He swung the Hellfire Dragon sword and split the Jade Man into two halves. This time, the Jade couldn't heal. The two halves of his body couldn't be healed. He was terrified. He let out a shrill cry. Lin Xian sneered. Back then, the great dragon sword could split the great emperor in half. There was no way to heal, not to mention the person in the jade. Although this thing was mysterious, it couldn't be compared to the great emperor. Chapter 5560. Although Lin Xian couldn't unleash the full power of the great dragon sword, it was enough to deal with the jade-like man in front of him. After the jade-like man was injured, he wanted to escape. The two halves of his body flew toward the Jade Mountains. The crimson dragon sneered. "Stay!" The array formed by it flickered quickly, blocking the jade-like man in the middle. The jade-like man in the middle let out a shrill cry. His 12 arms danced quickly, bombarding the array. Lin Xian roared angrily. 6 paths of reincarnation. The illusion of 6 worlds appeared and kept crushing the jade-like man in the middle. The jade-like man in the middle was suppressed. He roared, unwilling to give up. However, Lin Xian's eyes were fixed on him like a god. Soul Search. The power of the Rinnegan completely erupted. The jade-like man in the middle couldn't resist. His soul was searched. Lin Xian's right Rinnegan saw a mysterious image. In an unknown space, there were endless altars and ancient stones. Desolate, strange stones were placed all over the ground. In the middle, there was a piece of jade. It was a piece of blood-colored jade. It was incomparably mysterious and radiated brilliance. It was unforgettable with a single glance. Could it be the heavenly spirit jade that the great dragon mentioned? Lin Xian wanted to examine it carefully, but at this moment, the blood-colored jade shook slightly. A terrifying power appeared, and even the surrounding ancient altars and stone pillars erupted with light. In the next moment, the image shattered. Lin Xian frowned. The jade-like man in front of him also let out a scream. Then he turned into pieces of jade. Then cracks appeared on his body. With a crack, he shattered into pieces. Was he dead? Lin Xian frowned. It seemed that someone had discovered his soul search and forcibly interrupted it. At the same time, in a mysterious place, the heavenly spirit jade shook nonstop. At the same time, a cold shout sounded. "Who dares to examine me?" The mournful voice was very terrifying. The surrounding stone pillars and ancient altars also shook, letting out a low sound. Did the great emperor family discover us? Humph, no matter who it is, even if it's a martial monarch clan, so what? Can they do anything to us? The time has come. This is our world, and no one can stop us. After waiting for so long, it was finally here. The heavens are helping me. This time we will rule the world. Various low, hoarse, and aged voices sounded one after another. Obviously, these were all extremely terrifying and mysterious existences. What happened to the kid? In the Jade Mountain, the Crimson Dragon withdrew the formation. He asked. Lin Xian said that he had discovered something. He recounted what he had seen. The Crimson Dragon was surprised. From the looks of it, the blood-colored jade was their main body. As long as they could find the blood-colored jade, it would be enough. However, he didn't know where it was. Lin Xian asked DeLong again. He described what he had seen. DeLong said, "You said you saw many stone pillars and strange stones. Combined with the heavenly spiritual jade, I can think of a place. Ancient land of Tai Chu." Lin Xian frowned after hearing this. He wasn't unfamiliar with this place. This place was also a forbidden land for life. Moreover, it was in the quintessential world. From the looks of it, it wasn't just the forbidden land of burial earth that had been revived. It was the same in the quintessential world. This time, it wasn't just 1 or 2 worlds that had changed, but the entire universe. Were they going to face a forbidden land for life? The Crimson Dragon said, "I'm afraid we can't beat it now." Lin Xian said, "Don't worry, we shouldn't be the only ones affected. The other remote antiquity and martial monarch clans should be affected as well. Let's join forces with them and attack together." Then the two of them returned. Lin Xian gathered the strength of the Divine Union once again. At the same time, he also sent a message to the remote antiquity and martial monarch clans to inquire. When he found out that, as he had guessed, the other clans and sects were also injured, Lin Xian understood that they could join forces. Qingcheng, send out the Divine Union invitation and invite the martial monarch clans and remote antiquity clans to discuss. After the Divine Union invitation was sent out, the martial monarch clans and remote antiquity clans all set off. Now, who would dare not give face to Lin Xian? Furthermore, the discussion this time was about this mysterious matter. Therefore, they were very cooperative and came quickly. In an instant, Burial Earth was shocked. Had they gathered in the Divine Union again? The people of the Purple Mansion were nervous. Was Lin Wuyi going to attack them? After all, they were the ones Lin Xian wanted to attack the most after the nest of 10,000 dragons. The Purple Mansion Master snorted coldly and ignored them. In less than a year, they would all be dead. They just had to wait patiently. He had also heard about some of the strange phenomena that had occurred recently. He knew that it was because those people were going to come, which was why it was happening. Previously, his father had said that they would arrive in 3 years. Now, 2 years had passed, and there was still 1 year left. He wouldn't do anything during this year. When those people arrived, it would be the best time for them to make a move. In the main hall of the Divine Union, the martial monarch clans, remote antiquity clans, and peerless great sects had all gathered. After seeing Lin Gongzi, they all bowed. Lin Xian also said, "Everyone, I invited you here to discuss what happened in the Spirit Jade mountain range recently." Upon hearing this, many of the martial monarch clans and grand elders sighed. "Forget about it, the losses were disastrous. Young master, we don't even know who the other party is." The martial monarch clans also shook their heads. The Yi family patriarch said, "We have no clue." Yi Wudao said, "Brother Lin, you must know something since you called us here, right?" As soon as he said this, the other powerhouses raised their heads and looked at Lin Xian. All of them exclaimed, "Lin Gongzi, do you know?" "Young master, tell us quickly. You are making us anxious." These people were extremely anxious. Lin Xian said, "Our people from the Divine Union were also injured, so I caught one of them and asked him clearly. The person who attacked us was the Jade Man." The Jade Man? Many people frowned. They had never heard of this before. Where did this monster come from? However, the old Phoenix Bridge of the Phoenix race narrowed his eyes. It seemed to be a 10,000 ancient race that had disappeared. That's right. The Yi family patriarch's eyes lit up. Not even half of the 10,000 ancient races had been passed down. Many of them had disappeared in the long river of time. The Jade Man was one of them. Had they appeared again? Damn it! The Qilin race clenched their teeth. No wonder they had turned into jade. These Jade Men had this ability. They had actually been ambushed by them. Cold voices rang out one after another. Obviously, these martial monarch clans had heard some records about the people in prison. Lin Xian said, "Since you know, it's easy to deal with. If they wanted to break it, they would have to find the original body of the Jade Man, the Sky Spirit Jade. The Sky Note race side. It was said that the Sky Spirit Jade was extremely mysterious and existed in any place in the 10,000 worlds. It was hidden very deeply and definitely wouldn't be found easily. How would we know?" As soon as this was said, the others nodded. The 10,000 worlds was too vast. They didn't have much time. Chapter 5561. Those ancient families and monarch families were very worried. They didn't have any clues at all. At this moment, the corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up into a smile. Don't worry, everyone. I found it. Is that true? Lin Gongzi. The surrounding experts were also delighted when they heard this. At the same time, they were also surprised. It was too unbelievable. They had so many great emperor families and ancient families, but they didn't have any clues. However, Lin Xian had them. As far as they knew, Lin Xian should have been cultivating in seclusion before. He had just come out and found an important clue. His strength was really unfathomable. The Yi family's patriarch said, "What kind of clue was Lin Gongzi?" The people of the Phoenix clan were also looking forward to it. Lin Xian told them some of the information he had obtained. After the others heard this, they sucked in a breath of cold air. What? You're saying it's actually the ancient land of Taichu? Heavens, that's also a forbidden land, right? Yes, and it's not on burial earth, but in the true spirit world. They didn't expect another forbidden land to appear, and it actually condensed into the jade person. The Kuan Peng clan's patriarch frowned. The ancient land of Tai Chu was not ordinary. There are many strange stones inside. Perhaps they contained some terrifying existence. Indeed, some precious strange stones could be cut into mysterious things. And the best strange stones were in the ancient land of Taichu. Lin Xian had also seen some scenes through the soul-searching. Apart from the sky spirit jade, he did see a few strange stones that were abnormally ancient. He said, "That's why I'm looking for everyone. Since everyone is attacked by the jade person, we should join forces. Let's go to the ancient land of Tai Chu together." At least, they had to hand over the antidote. Yes, that's right. Those families and sects also nodded. This time, they were already in such a sorry state. If they didn't take it, the jade person would attack again. Then their losses would be even heavier. And this time, with Lin Xian leading, they were even more relieved. After all, Lin Xian had once challenged 2 forbidden lands. He was still alive and well. With this kind of strength, they were relieved. Therefore, they said, "Lin Gongzi, we support you. You tell me what to do." "That's right, Lin Gongzi. How should we proceed? You tell us." The people here were all old monsters who had lived for countless years, but they still had to respect Lin Xian. Lin Xian said, "Everyone get ready. In 3 days, we will leave for the true spirit world." True spirit world. Their strength was also gradually recovering. Saints and martial artists could be seen everywhere. There were even some ancient existences that appeared. For example, some immortal foundations of the Yuhua immortal dynasty. Moreover, his sacred grounds had become much stronger than before. Among them, the divine palace had become even more powerful. There were also many experts inside. When they learned that Lin Xian was going there, they were extremely excited. The sacred hall was also considered a member of the divine union. However, because of the quintessential world, Lin Xian did not allow the sacred hall's experts to go to the burial Earth star. After all, the true spirit world was the origin star, a mysterious existence. Therefore, if they stayed there, they would have an unexpected effect at a critical moment. Peacock and Xingtian led a group of experts from the sacred hall and gathered outside the land of absolute beginning. On the other side, the ancient families of the burial Earth star were also moving. They met up with Lin Xian, and the group headed to the quintessential world. These people were very fast because the Yi family and the Gu family originally had a foundation in the quintessential world. At the moment, there were still many people guarding the quintessential world. Therefore, they all used the transportation array. They were very fast. Soon, they appeared in the quintessential world. Obviously, besides Lin Xian, these great emperor families were not willing to give up on the quintessential world. One could imagine how important the quintessential world was. Let's go to the land of absolute beginning. In the central region of the land of absolute beginning, a group of people rose into the air and flew quickly. Finally, they arrived. There were many people in front of them. The Kuan Peng race frowned, and the Qilin race exclaimed, They felt that there were many experts. Could it be that the land of absolute beginning had come to intercept them? Lin Xian's eyes shone with the light of reincarnation. He looked forward, and then the corners of his mouth raised into a smile. He said that there was no need to worry. They were not from the land of absolute beginning. While the others were still puzzled, the experts in front flew over. These experts were very tall. Each of them was like a demon god. They had powerful strength. After arriving, the surrounding remote antiquity families felt a huge pressure. They were facing a great enemy. The people in front were led by two people, a tall man and a beautiful woman. After arriving, they bowed respectfully to Lin Xian, greeting the palace master. When the surrounding people saw this scene, they were stunned. What palace master? They were actually Lin Xian's people. This scene was too shocking. Lin Wudi also had such a powerful force in the quintessential world. The Yi family and the Gu family were also surprised. They should be from the divine palace. They did not expect that they had grown to such a terrifying realm. It seemed that the current quintessential world was not inferior to the burial Earth Star at all. Lin Xian nodded and said, "Rise. How is it? How is the investigation?" Peacock walked over and took out a scroll. "The information we investigated is all here." After Lin Xian opened it, he read it with his soul. It was all about the land of absolute beginning. There had been a change in the land of absolute beginning recently. There would often be blood-red light shooting into the sky. However, it all happened at night. It was indeed very quiet during the day, and every time the blood-red light shot into the sky, it would only last for a short time. It seemed that the land of absolute beginning had indeed recovered. "Let's go." These people walked forward. The land of absolute beginning was very mysterious. The ground here was brown and had an ancient aura. The surrounding mountains had a desolate aura, making people feel as if they had entered the ancient era. Boom! When they approached, the surrounding mountains shook like seawater sweeping through the 9 heavens. Terrifying laws covered heaven and earth. The terrifying power caused the surrounding void to shatter. The surrounding people felt as if they were facing a great enemy. They felt as if 100,000 mountains were pressing down on them. The people of the land of absolute beginning had discovered them. What should they do? Should they attack? These people gritted their teeth. Terrifying laws also appeared on their bodies. However, Lin Xian walked out and shouted coldly, "Land of absolute beginning, it seems that you have indeed awakened. Then send someone out." Boom, boom, boom. As soon as he finished speaking, light flashed ahead. 3 figures appeared. These were 3 young people. After they came out, their expressions were arrogant as they raised their chins and shouted coldly, "Who are you? You dare to behave atrociously in the land of absolute beginning? Leave quickly, otherwise you will go to hell." As they spoke, these people also exuded an ancient primordial power. On the other side, the people from the monarch and remote antiquity families frowned. The land of absolute beginning was too arrogant, so many of them came together, but the other party sent 3 young people? Lin Xian snorted coldly. He slapped forward with his hand. Chapter 5562. You're courting death. How dare you attack us? The 3 young men were furious, although the other party had thousands of soldiers and horses. So what? The ancient emperor of Tai Chu was high and mighty and looked down on everything. But now, someone actually dared to attack them. The 3 of them roared angrily as resplendent light erupted from their bodies. Power swept out like raging waves crashing against the shore. They could tell that the one who attacked was a young man. They didn't take such a person to heart. The 2 collided, and a monstrous power swept out like a thunderclap. Damn it, how could he be so powerful? However, the 3 young men's expressions became incomparably ugly, because the moment they collided with the other party, they felt their palms shatter. Then, That power tore their bodies into pieces. Their souls wanted to escape, but they were shattered by a slap. The three of them were terrified. They didn't expect the young man in front of them to be so terrifying, to be able to kill them in one move. With a scream, the three of them had their souls destroyed. Only a mist of blood drifted out. Were they dead? The eyelids of the clan of the ancients and the peerless sex behind them twitched. To be honest, although they could suppress the other party, they didn't dare to kill him. After all, this was the land of Tai Chu, and they were now in the other party's territory. If they really angered them, it would be extremely terrifying. After all, Mount Eternal and the desolate tomb had given them too much shock. Furthermore, they now knew that these forbidden lands of life all had mortal, exalted existences. However, Lin Xian didn't seem to care at all and easily killed the people of the land of Tai Chu. Lin Xian retracted his palm and looked forward. He said coldly, "I think you guys haven't figured out the situation yet, and you sent 3 ants here? What a joke! Why don't you film something more serious? Otherwise, we'll just walk in." A terrifying power rose from Lin Xian's body. It was as if he was a divine king that wanted to suppress the 9 heavens. The surrounding mountains shook violently once again. This time, it wasn't the power of the land of Tai Chu, but the power of Lin Xian's physique. Seeing that there was no sound from the other side, Lin Xian snorted coldly. He stomped his foot, and a huge crack tore the ground apart. It was like a dragon from hell, spreading forward with its fangs and claws. The entire land was shattering. The surrounding people were shocked. No way was Lin Wuyi really going to attack. The ancient land of Grand Primordium ahead shook. At this moment, a cold shout came from inside. As soon as this voice rang out, the surrounding heaven and earth quieted down, and the earth no longer shattered. The large crack stopped. Young people are too arrogant, daring to attack in our ancient land of absolute beginning? Who is your senior master? Get him to kneel on the ground and kowtow to apologize. Just you? Lin Xian sneered. It seemed that this ancient land of absolute beginning really didn't recognize him. He had probably just woken up and thought that he was a supreme existence. "And you are not worthy of me taking action. But in order to punish you and to warn others, you can go to hell." A ray of light flew out from within. It was incomparably resplendent, and like a blazing sun, it shot towards Lin Xian. Boom! Lin Xian snorted coldly and punched out. The power of the divine body bloomed brilliantly as if the god of the sun had descended, directly blowing away the dazzling light. At the same time, he let out a long howl and shot out a beam of sword chi towards the land of absolute primordium. With a loud bang, an earth-shattering explosion came from inside. There was also an exasperated roar. That voice was like the resurrection of an ancient demonic beast. It was obvious that the person inside was shamelessly angry. "And do you want to die?" Lin Xian shouted coldly. "Do you have the ability to kill me? Come out, and I'll destroy you with one hand." Endless aura surged from inside as a middle-aged man walked out. His expression was somewhat ferocious. It was obvious that he was the one who had fought with Lin Xian previously, and he had suffered a loss. After coming out, his gaze was fixed on Lin Xian. Boom! A saber appeared in his hand. It seemed to be made of rock. This was not an ordinary rock. It should be a strange rock. It might even be a treasure cut out of the strange rock. The middle-aged man held the stone saber and slashed forward. This time his strength was even stronger than before. It was obvious that it was just a casual attack before, but now he was really angry. Lin Xian laughed loudly. The flames that rose from his body turned into 9 suns that spun non-stop. At the same time, he took the initiative to attack. His palms turned into a demon god seal to resist the stone saber. "Ignorant ant, you dare to take my saber with your bare hands?" The middle-aged man opposite him sneered, and his voice shook the sky. The 2 sides collided, and the stone saber trembled. How was that possible? The middle-aged man was shocked. The origin of the stone saber was extraordinary. Just as he was surprised, Lin Xian shouted angrily again and threw a punch. With a clang, the saber shook. Then there were two more punches. The stone saber broke in the middle. The middle-aged man retreated and spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were about to pop out. Damn it, what kind of physique was that? How could this young man be so strange? Lin Xian had already arrived in front of him and stretched out a palm. The demonic aura on it was monstrous. The demon god palm. Damn it! The middle-aged man threw out both fists. His fists and arms were petrified. There were ancient runes on them that could break the sky. Boom! The demon god palm landed mercilessly, shattering his palm. The middle-aged man fell to the ground. He knelt on the ground and looked up at the sky. His entire being had gone mad. No, what kind of power was that? He wanted to resist, but he was slapped to the ground. Too weak. Lin Xian said coldly, I told you to send someone with power. Are the people in Taichu ancient land trash? A cold voice sounded. The middle-aged man wanted to die. He was actually slapped in the face by a young man, and he couldn't resist at all. Behind him, the Emperor race people were also shocked. Lin Wudi's strength seemed to have increased again. His cultivation speed was way too fast. He was a monster. One had to know that geniuses cultivated very quickly, but at their level, they were already peak great saints. If they wanted to take another step forward, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. But Lin Xian seemed to be an exception. Lin Xian was stronger than the Holy Lord. He was the Triple Crown champion. Logically speaking, cultivating like this was very peaceful. Breaking through was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. But now, Lin Xian's strength had become stronger than before. That was why they were so shocked. Lin Xian's voice sounded between heaven and earth, but there was still no response. Lin Xian couldn't laugh coldly, right? I'll send him to hell. I'll only give you 3 seconds. 3:21 time was up. Lin Xian's palm erupted with endless demonic light as he struck out again. Stop! An old voice sounded from inside. It seemed that Taichu ancient land was finally going to send out a powerhouse. However, it was already too late. Lin Xian's demonic light directly enveloped the middle-aged man, destroying his heart and soul. You dare! The old voice inside was instantly filled with killing intent. Chapter 5563. The light in front flickered and turned into an old man. The old man was so angry that his body trembled. He stared ahead, his face frighteningly dark. How dare you try to kill me? He roared. Humph! I said that I would give you 3 seconds. However, if you don't come out after 3 seconds, don't blame me for being impolite. Lin Xian said coldly. His attitude was very domineering. After all, they had come all the way here to force the heaven ascension spirit jade to hand over the antidote. This process wouldn't be simple. Hence, they had to be firm right from the start. Who are you? Young man, there are some places where you can't behave atrociously. The old man's gaze was like a lamp. Lin Xian said proudly, Me, Lin Xian, Lin Wudi. I am the leader of the Divine Union. This time, the Gu family, Yi family, Phoenix tribe, and other great emperor clans have followed me. Lin Xian waved his hand behind him, and the people behind him stepped forward. A powerful aura swept out in all directions. The old man's pupils shrank and his expression changed. Damn it! How could it be so terrifying? He had originally thought that it was just a bunch of reckless people. Who would have thought that so many great emperor clans would come together? These people couldn't be thinking of attacking the land of absolute beginning, right? Although they were a forbidden land and were powerful, if so many great emperor clans joined forces, they wouldn't be able to handle it. He gritted his teeth. Damn it! What do you want? Do you want to start a war with the land of absolute beginning? Do you know how strong the land of absolute beginning is? It's not something that your great emperor clans can compare to unless your ancient emperor is reborn. Otherwise, you can't do anything to us. As he spoke, an ancient aura erupted from his body. At the same time, many stone talismans flickered on his body. Lin Xian smiled. Old man, don't be nervous. We won't attack you for the time being. I'm only here to make you promise me something. Why was the old man frowning? Lin Xian said, I heard that the land of absolute beginning has a piece of spiritual jade that condenses into a person in the jade and assassinates people everywhere. Now, hand it over. What? You actually know. This old man was really too shocked. That psychic jade was their secret. How could anyone else know? Moreover, they had just awakened in the land of absolute beginning and had yet to come into contact with the people outside. Who are you? How do you know these things? He stared at Lin Xian with killing intent. If you don't want anyone to know, don't do it in the first place. Those jade people are too impudent. They actually dared to offend us. He had even offended these great emperor clans. This time, I've brought people here to demand an explanation. Do you really think the land of absolute beginning can be so arrogant as to go against all these emperor clans? The old man at the front had an ugly expression on his face. He quickly formed a hand seal and sent a voice transmission. This news had to reach the people inside. Soon, another woman walked out from inside. This was a middle-aged woman with a phoenix crown on her head. She was incomparably cold. He said coldly after coming out. So it was the various emperor clans. Jade Man is indeed from our ancient land of Grand Primordium. It's just that he snuck out to play behind our backs. I might have accidentally hurt you all, so I apologize to you all. Everyone, please go back. What? You want us to go back? The people at the back were also in an uproar. Was he a beggar? The monarch clans' faces also darkened. Their great emperor clans had always been the overlords of the universe. Who dared to treat them like this? Sure enough, the Yi family people snorted coldly. Yi Wudao walked out and said, So what if you're from a forbidden land? Aren't you a little too arrogant? The Qilin son sneered. Just an apology was enough. Hand over the antidote. The land of Kuanping walked out and said loudly, Hand over the spirit-channeling jade. Otherwise, if we join forces, even if you're from a forbidden land, you won't be able to resist us. Do you want to fight? The cold woman snorted coldly. Do you think only your great emperor clans can join forces? Unfortunately, forbidden lands can join forces as well. So if we really fight, it won't be just your great emperor clans. As soon as these words came out, the expressions of the monarch clans changed. The cold woman smiled. Of course, your great emperor clans are high and mighty. It's understandable that you're not convinced now. How about this? I'll give you a choice. We'll send 3 people here. You can fight one-on-one. As long as you can win, we'll agree to your request. We'll give you some antidote. How about it? This way, since they made a move, they would be able to probe the current strength of these emperor clans, and their foundations wouldn't be damaged. After all, they were only sending 3 people. The land of absolute beginning could advance and retreat freely. Sure, this was also a good opportunity. Those Emperor Clan people all laughed. They didn't want to start a full-scale war. Now that they were only sending a few people to fight one-on-one, they were still very confident. After all, the other party didn't limit them. They were only young people. The older generation experts could also fight. All right, everyone wait. After an incense stick's worth of time will begin. The cold woman walked in. Soon, she arrived at the depths of the land of absolute beginning. There was a blood-colored jade floating there, emitting a blood-colored light. The cold woman said, everything was going according to plan. There were a few stones around them. They stood there, emitting an ancient aura. These were all very mysterious stones. A few voices came from inside. The people of the monarch clans don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. They think they can fight against us. This time we've awakened. We want to rule the world. The monarch clans can't stop us. Another voice sounded. The psychic jade in the middle snorted coldly. He said, I sense that the person in the jade I sent out was killed by someone. Moreover, I sense that person outside. When we attack later, we must kill him and suppress his soul. I want him to live a life worse than death. The old woman bowed respectfully. Yes, I understand. Then she waved her jade-like hand. The three of you come out with me. 3 cracks appeared on the ground, and 3 pieces of rock emerged from the cracks. The light on the 3 stones gradually became brighter, flickering like stars. Who is awakening us? Is it our turn to appear? I'll tear the enemy into pieces. The 3 voices were different, but they were filled with incomparable confidence. The cold woman turned around and walked out with the 3 stones. Outside, the people from the monarch clans were also discussing. They decided to see who the other party sent first before making any plans. After all, they had more people on their side, so they had more choices. Lin Xian also stood with his hands behind his back, narrowing his eyes. He wondered how strong the land of absolute beginning was. Previously, the people sent out by the desolate spirit in Mount Eternal were all double crown kings. The land of absolute beginning should be about the same. Suddenly, someone cried out in surprise. Look, they came out. Chapter 5564. The people from the ancient land of Taichu had indeed come. After the surrounding people looked over, they frowned. It was actually 3 stones. What kind of enemy was this? Could it be a strange stone? There was a terrifying existence inside. Could it be some ancient thing? Some people from the families and sects frowned. The people from the emperor race were cold. So what? They had never been afraid of anyone before. The cold woman walked over and said, These 3 are the opponents that I have carefully selected for you. How about this? I won't bully you. You can send a total of 9 people. As long as one of these 9 people can defeat the 3 of them, then it's fine. What? 9 people? Was she looking down on them? The people from the Gu family were instantly enraged. The Qilin son, Kuan-Ping son, and the others also snorted coldly. There were 3 people on the other side, but they wanted 9 people. They were completely looking down on them. No need, just 3 will do. The people from the Gu family shouted angrily. One of them walked out. Old man, come. This was an old man. The power of space on his body was extremely terrifying. It was Elder Gu Shao. Countless people exclaimed. This was a veteran sacred leader. He was extremely terrifying. Many people heaved a sigh of relief. When such a person worked together, the power of space would definitely be terrifying to the extreme. Was he an elder? The cold woman on the other side narrowed her eyes, but she soon smiled. It didn't matter, no matter what age or cultivation level they could come. He had checked, and the oldest among these people was only a sacred ancestor. There wasn't even a quasi-emperor, and there wasn't even anyone who had 1 foot in the Saint Realm. Then, how could these people be compared to them? If a quasi-emperor didn't come, these people wouldn't be a match at all. There were still 2 spots left. Who should they send? Some people discussed. I'll do it. The Qilin son strode out. Now that his strength had increased compared to before, he was an extremely terrifying existence among the double champions. Moreover, he was the emperor's son, so when he walked out, everyone exclaimed. Although the fire Qilin was not as good as Lin Xian, he was still a very terrifying existence. He belonged to the top geniuses. They all looked at the last figure. Who was it? Should they let Lin Gongzi fight? Some people said. However, there were also people who said that they were not worthy of Lin Gongzi taking action. That's right. Lin Gongzi is so strong. I don't think we need Lin Gongzi in this battle. Voices sounded one after another. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes at Leaf Dao Denier. You just came out. Aren't you going to show off your skills? Fine, Leaf Doudenier said. Since you're not going, I'll go. The three of them stepped out and walked forward. Elder Gu Shao of the Gu clan, the Fire Qilin, and Yi Wu Dao. Two young people? The aloof woman sneered. All right, let's begin then. The first stone flew out, and a loud voice came from it. He spun quickly and turned into a burly man. The big man held the giant hammer and said coldly, "Old thing, go to hell." The hammer struck out, emitting an incomparably violent aura, causing the 9 heavens to shake. So powerful. Countless people were shocked. Elder Gu Shao sneered. As he opened and closed his hands, the space was banished. Endless space power condensed and swept in all directions. The opponent was instantly banished. Damn it! The burly man swept in all directions in the space storm. The warhammer in his hand was constantly waving, bringing with it a destructive aura. Heavens, he could actually resist the space storm. He was really too strong. Was this the Tai Chu ancient land? It was indeed terrifying. Cries of surprise could be heard one after another. After exchanging 50 moves, Elder Gu Shao completely let go of his opponent. He won the first battle. Countless people exclaimed, "That's great." Elder Gu Zhao's lips curled up. He was just S.O. The aloof woman frowned. Space magic. Was he from the Gu family? A descendant of the Void Emperor? His face was cold. He did not expect the opponent to be so strong. But so what? He was a senior figure. It was one thing for him to be strong. He should be a living fossil. He would definitely not lose the other 2 battles. So what if these 2 young people were strong? In his opinion, Gu Shao should be the one with the most terrifying strength. As for the other 2, they were completely useless. He really did not think highly of these people. In fact, it was not surprising. The Tai Chu ancient land had just awakened and did not collect any information. In their opinion, this world was similar to when they were in hibernation. The human race had withered and there were no experts. However, they did not know that the golden era had already arrived. These people had already experienced countless battles and tests. Their combat strength was shocking. Therefore, the Tai Chu ancient land had really miscalculated this time. The Fire Qilin came for the second battle. On the other side, a cold voice sounded. His body also emitted a terrifying flame light. It was a kind of earth fire. "Do you believe that I can kill you in one move?" The earth fire in the sky danced over. The Fire Qilin sneered. He walked among the fire. "With just you? I am the King of Fire." With a roar, a Qilin rune appeared on his body. There was also a terrifying phantom, Qilin arm. With a strike, it directly pierced through the earth fire. The strange stone was sent flying. The strange stone turned into a pale-faced man. He spat out blood, and his face was filled with shock. "Damn it, what's going on? Who are you?" The Fire Qilin roared. "I am the Qilin sun." His flames became more and more terrifying, sweeping in all directions. The pale-faced man continued to vomit blood from his mouth. The cold woman's expression also changed. This aura. Bloodline. The Qilin sun. He was the son of a great emperor. Damn it. His expression was cold. Even someone like his disciple had made a move. The Qilin sun won the second battle. There was still one last battle. The cold woman's expression became incomparably ugly. He had lost both battles. This was a slap to his face. The imperial suns had appeared, but the last one should not be. This battle was incomparably won. Moreover, when he saw the third stone, the corners of his mouth curled up. This stone was personally requested by the psychic blood jade. It was very powerful. Not only did it have to win the battle, but it also had to kill the person who injured the person in the jade. Therefore, this stone was the most powerful. "It's up to you now," the cold woman said to the third stone. The strange stone nodded. "I'll kill you in one move." It stared at Leaf Doudenier. Then it quickly transformed into a man in blood-red armor. He held a blood-red spear in his hand, which was dripping with blood. Kill! His blood-red eyes pierced the 9 heavens as he charged toward Leif Daudenier. Leif Daudenier didn't move at all. The blood-armored man's lips curled up. Had his opponent been scared silly by his aura? Fine. I'll kill him, then deal with the enemy. When he arrived in front of his opponent, Leif Daudenier reached out and grabbed the spear. Chapter 55-65. Stupid thing! How dare you grab my weapon? All the blood in your body is withering. Go to hell! He sneered and waved his spear, but in the next moment he was stunned, because he discovered that the other party's palm was like a boulder, making his weapon unable to move at all. How was this possible? Break for me! The spear trembled. That power was enough to shatter heaven and earth. However, Yi Daudenier's palm was unharmed. Yi Daudenier said, "You're too weak. You disappoint me." He threw out a punch. Behind him, the phantom of a divine king of the 9 heavens appeared, suppressing everything. With a boom, the blood-armored man was sent flying, and his body was torn into pieces. He won. That's great. He won all 3 battles. The people from the monarch race cheered. They heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, they were surprised. Yi Daudenier was indeed strong enough. He was the Triple Crown champion. As for the cold and haughty woman, she was completely stunned. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets. What was going on? Why did this person feel even more terrifying than the second Imperial Prince? Who was he? What kind of aura was that? It felt like the Triple Crown champion. Impossible. How could there be an Imperial Prince and a Triple Crown champion in this era? This was impossible. He roared crazily. Lin Xian, who was beside him, laughed. The ancient land of Taichu is really trash. Didn't you investigate after you woke up? Originally, I had high hopes for you, but I didn't expect you to be so far inferior to Mount Eternal and the Desolate Forest. Damn it, how could it be like this? The cold woman's expression was ugly. The strength of these people was completely beyond her expectations. It seemed that the changes in this era were greater than they had imagined. Don't be so smug. So what if you've become stronger? Can you really contend against us? The cold woman snorted coldly. At this moment, Lin Xian walked out and slapped forward with another large hand. Damn brat, how dare you attack me? He roared crazily. At the same time, he also attacked. He pointed out a finger, which transformed into a divine sword and pierced toward Lin Xian. Lin Xian used the demon god seal and slashed out. It carried a terrifying aura, as if the demon emperor had awakened. The cold woman was disdainful at first, but when she really fought with Lin Xian, she realized how powerful Lin Xian was. How could he fight against such a person? Damn it, the Triple Crown? He exclaimed. Leif Daudenier was already a Triple Crown champion, so who could have guessed that another Triple Crown champion would appear? And from the looks of it, this person was even more terrifying. With a clang, his finger was broken. Her scream was like a ghost from the 9th heaven. Extremely ear-piercing. Not good. It's a soul attack. Quickly defend. The surrounding people retreated one after another, preparing to defend themselves. Lin Xian sneered. 6 paths of reincarnation. Suppress him. 6 illusory worlds appeared between heaven and earth, spinning nonstop, crushing his opponent's soul. At the same time, Lin Xian attacked again. The demon emperor's inheritance reappeared, turning into a terrifying demon god steel. A black, heavenly steel fell from the sky and hit the cold woman. Boom! The cold woman's soul was first attacked, and then she vomited blood after being hit by a demon world stone monument. His body was completely torn apart. Damn it, you dare to kill me? She roared crazily. Lin Xian snorted coldly. The demon world stone monument directly suppressed her. Then, Lin Xian walked over and grabbed her with one hand. Kill you? No, you're still useful. Lin Xian walked into the land of absolute beginning. The surrounding people sucked in a breath of cold air. The people from the monarch race also said, "Let's go, follow him." Now that things had reached this point, they had to continue attacking. Originally, the strange stones inside didn't care about the situation outside. However, when they discovered that Lin Xian and the others had entered, they were completely furious. Someone was attacking the array formation. Who was it? Inside the land of absolute beginning, these mysterious existences rose into the air one by one. Those were all strangely shaped stones. They emitted an extremely terrifying light, turning into rays of light that pierced through the front. It was those people outside. Damn it! How did they fight their way in? Could it be that they had won? That was impossible. Once we make our move, who can fight against us? Not good. Why do I feel like the array formation is about to shatter? Another round stone cried out in alarm. What kind of joke was this? Who could break through our array formation? Another stone that was as tall as a small mountain let out a low voice. It shook the void until it trembled. Just as he finished speaking, a rumbling sound suddenly came from ahead. Then, endless cracks spread out in all directions. The pupils of the strange stones inside constricted. The array formation was really broken. That was impossible. They were all stunned. In the next moment, they saw a group of people walking over. At the same time, an extremely terrifying aura of the extreme Dao filled the air. Damn it, it was an extreme Dao weapon. These people looked nervous and instantly rushed over. Stop! In an instant, 9 strange stones appeared. They stood between heaven and earth, and were as big as small mountains. The small ones were only the size of footballs. Releasing an extreme Dao weapon here, could it be that you want our human sovereigns to make a move? These strange stones turned into figures, one after another, as they shouted coldly, "Elder, save me." At this moment, a weak voice sounded. The 9 strange stones in front looked forward. In the next moment, their pupils constricted because they discovered that the cold woman had been injured and completely suppressed. "Damn brat, you're courting death." One of the old men slapped out with his palm. His palm was extremely terrifying. It was blue like the blue of the deep sea. There were extremely terrifying runes on it. The origin of this stone was extremely extraordinary. Lin Xian snorted coldly. "If you dare to move, I'll destroy your soul." With a crack, the cold woman let out a miserable cry. The blue palm in the sky stopped, and the killing intent in the old man's eyes was astonishing. "If you dare to touch her, I'll make you die without a burial ground. Don't worry, as long as you cooperate obediently, I won't bother to make a move on this piece of trash." Lin Xian threw the cold woman to the ground and stepped on her back. Then he looked forward. All right, it was time to get down to business. When the 9 strange stones in front saw this scene, they were so angry that they vomited blood. Who was this young man? He was too daring. Lin Xian didn't care at all. He said, "Where's the divine spirit jade? Tell him to come out." Hearing this, the pupils of the strange stones constricted. "Who do you think you are? How dare you clamor in front of us? You'd better cooperate obediently." The old phoenix walked over. That's right, Yu Wu Dao also walked over with his people. One by one, the monarch race and the clan of the ancients came to Lin Xian's side. Their bodies emitted powerful auras. So many people. What a terrifying aura, and I can feel the power of the monarch race. You're from the monarch race, and there's more than one of you. At this moment, the 9 strange stones in front were completely stunned. They didn't expect such a terrifying force to come. It was completely out of their expectations. Chapter 5566. The people of the ancient land of Tai Chu knew about the existence of the monarch races, but they didn't expect them to join forces. One had to know that the interests of these monarch families were definitely different. There were even grudges, so how could they join forces to fight against each other? But now, so many monarch families had come. The number of people shocked them. And from the looks of it, these people had already joined forces. How did they do it? Who do you think you are? How dare you challenge Lin Gongzi? Hurry up and apologize to Lin Gongzi. The old Qilin of the Qilin clan walked out and shouted coldly. In front of him, the mountain-like figure was completely stunned. This was the Qilin clan. A monarch family was so protective of this young man. Could it be that this young man was an emperor? He looked forward carefully, but when he saw that there was a young man beside the old Qilin, he was completely stunned. That young man had the bloodline of a monarch, right? The other party wasn't an emperor, but his status was higher than an emperor. Who is this? The old phoenix also walked out and said, "Apologize to Lin Gongzi, or don't blame us for being impolite." Wow! The Phoenix clan was also protecting this young man. Lin Gongzi had once done them a favor, so apologize. The people of the Kuanping clan also walked over. Next, the Yi and Gu families also expressed their stance. The 9 strange stones in front were completely stunned. So many monarch families were all standing beside a young man, and it seemed that this young man was the leader. Heavens! Who was this young man? Was he the reincarnation of a monarch? They were all crazy. Now they finally knew why these monarch families could join forces. The reason was this young man. They all stared at Lin Xian, wanting to see through him. Lin Xian's face darkened. I'll say it again, and it's also the last time. Where's the psychic blood jade? Let him come over. How should I address you? At this moment, the old man in blue, who had attacked earlier, also spoke. This time his tone was no longer as arrogant. Instead, there was a trace of shock. Lin Xian, Lin Wudi. So it was Lin Gongzi. Why was Lin Gongzi looking for the psychic blood jade? The old man even bowed respectfully. His attitude was completely different from before. There was nothing they could do. Even the monarch families had such an attitude. This young man was too mysterious, so they didn't dare to be too presumptuous. Psychic blood jade. How dare you hurt my friends? I'm here today to ask for the antidote, and let the psychic jade to help my friends. Otherwise, don't blame me for destroying your ancient land. Damn it! The strange stone that was the size of the small mountain. However, he was stopped by the blue-clothed old man. The other rocks also wore cold expressions. They quickly transmitted their voices. What should they do? T. However, the sovereign of the human realm had not fully awakened yet and was still making her final preparations. After all, that time hadn't arrived yet. There was still nearly a year to go. Eh? It would be great if it was a year earlier. Forget it. Let's take a step back first. Let's not have a conflict now. After a year, we'll make them all kneel at our feet. The strange stones discussed with each other. In the end, they decided not to have a conflict now, after waiting for a year. Therefore, they said, "All right, everyone, please wait a moment. I'll get the psychic jade to come over." The blue-clothed old man left to look for the psychic jade and tell it about the matter. The psychic jade was so angry that it almost vomited blood. Why? Lowering its head to a young man? And apologizing? Damn it, who did he think he was? One had to know that the origin of the psychic jade was also extremely extraordinary. But now it was too sullen. It was slapped in the face and couldn't even resist. There's no hurry. What we need now is time. We only need to wait for a year. Moreover, our judgment was wrong, which led to the current situation. Next, we have to properly investigate what's going on in this world and what changes have happened. The psychic jade had no choice. All right, I'll give you face. This time I'll give in. But a year later, I'll destroy their souls. Don't worry, a year later, We'll rule the world without you doing anything. When that time comes, no one will be able to stop us." After discussing, the two of them walked out. When the psychic jade came out, everyone looked in front of it curiously. Was that the true body of the jade man? What a terrifying blood aura. This jade definitely had an extraordinary origin. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. That was indeed the case. He could sense that the blood-red glow contained within the sky-piercing spirit jade was extremely terrifying. Even if it wasn't the blood of a great emperor, it was still extremely terrifying. No wonder it could create so many jade men. "You're the psychic jade, right? Hand over the antidote, and I'll spare your life." Even though the psychic jade was mentally prepared, it still trembled with anger when it heard such arrogant words. It almost fell out of the sky. It stared at Lin Xian. "It's you." It gritted its teeth. It could sense that it was Lin Xian who had searched its soul. "Hand over the antidote." Yi Wu Dao stepped forward. The old phoenix also said in a low voice. The Gu family, the Kunping family, and the others all shouted coldly. With so many great emperor families appearing together, even the psychic jade felt like it was facing a great enemy. It gritted its teeth and said, "Fine, fine, I'll give you the antidote." Its body shook and blood-red light flew out of it, turning into jade droplets, one after another. These jade droplets were crystal clear, and mysterious runes of the great Tao flickered on them. "Put it on them, and they'll recover in 3 days." Great, it's the antidote. The large families and the clan of the ancients were overjoyed after receiving the jade droplets. This time, it went smoother than they had imagined. Lin Xian also took the jade droplets and said, "That's good. If you dare to play any tricks, I'll cut you down with my sword. Let's go." Lin Xian turned and left with his people. Throughout the entire process, the land of Primordium didn't make a move, nor did it stop them. The demonic world steel on the cold woman's body disappeared, but her eyes were wide open. Even the elders didn't make a move. Was this young man already so strong? After Lin Xian and the others left, the psychic jade roared, "Despicable ant! How dare he be so arrogant in front of me? I won't let him go. His name is Lin Wudi, right? Go and find out who he is. I want all the information on him." One order after another was given. The ancient emperor of Primordium's people began to search for information. This time they were slapped in the face because they were careless and made a mistake. They promised that this would be the last time, and they wouldn't make a mistake again. Soon, all kinds of information about Lin Xian's battle achievements spread, causing the land of Primordium's experts to gasp. Chapter 5567. When the land of absolute beginning saw Lin Xian's information, they were also stunned. They had not expected this young man to be so terrifying. Such a heaven-defying genius had actually appeared while they were in slumber. It was no wonder that those monarch races were afraid of him. It turned out that this person was too powerful. Tong Tian's spiritual jade said, "So what if he was powerful? When the time came, he would be the first to be killed." Yes, that's right. The eyes of the other mystical stones were also shining brightly. In the past, such a person could have become an emperor. Not to mention this golden era. They could not let him have any hope of becoming an emperor. These people secretly gritted their teeth. As long as the time was right, they would attack Lin Xian. On the other side, Lin Xian and the others had also returned to the buried Emperor Star. They returned to their own sects and families to rescue their clansmen. Lin Xian and the others had also arrived at the Divine Union. On the way, they opened the frozen palace. The ice melted and the jade drops were injected into the bodies of Bai Su Su, savage wilderness ancestor, and the others. 3 days later, these people returned to normal and opened their eyes one by one. "Am I done?" The toad jumped up and took a closer look. Then it laughed out loud. "Ha ha ha, I'm finally done. Kid, how did you guys do it?" Lin Xian told them what had happened. Bai Susu and the others were shocked. It had actually gone so smoothly. It seemed like the land of absolute beginning had been too careless. If it had been the desolate tomb or Mount Eternal, it would not have been so easy. Indeed, Lin Xian nodded. It was indeed very smooth this time, but he also said that what he said was, when the mystical stones were communicating with their souls, I used my Rinnegan to capture some of their conversation. It seemed like they were saying that they would take revenge in a year. What? When these words came out, Murong Qingqing and the others were shocked. They did not know about this news either. Savage wilderness ancestor and the others sucked in a breath of cold air. They would take revenge in a year? So soon? Lin Xian said, not only that, I'm guessing that the change of heaven and earth is related to a year later. Therefore, we don't have much time left. Everyone became nervous. Only 1 year left? To them, this was the true instant of a snap of a finger. Following that, everyone worked even harder in their cultivation so that they could prepare for the upcoming battle a year later. Miraculous things kept happening in the universe and in the myriad of worlds. The others also knew that a great opportunity was about to arrive. Heavenly Saber Sect. The saber techniques of the peerless great sects were extremely terrifying. A team from the Sky Blade sect. He had rushed over from the outer realm. They first went to train and gather information about the universe. When they returned, they were also shocked. They saw a jade rabbit jumping in the universe. Every time the universe would collapse and the earth would crack as if it was about to be destroyed. They were only able to return by luck. However, they had brought back a lot of information that might be useful when the time came. These people quickly returned to their clans. However, along the way, their shadows were inexplicably connected. He couldn't even move his body. What's going on? I'm being controlled. These people shouted in fear and anger, trying to escape. As a result, their shadows stood up and directly attacked them. These people were beaten until they vomited blood. Damn it, the shadows actually counterattacked. These people shouted crazily and attacked the illusory shadows. However, these were their own shadows. They couldn't move them at all. However, these shadows easily subdued and suppressed them. In the next moment, a trace of emptiness appeared in their eyes. Everyone was controlled by their shadows. Humph! Soon, the corners of these people's mouths curled into a sneer. They walked back. These people returned to the Sky Blade sect. After returning, these people took out the information. The elders and leaders of the Sky Blade sect were very happy. They studied it carefully. However, at this moment, their shadows were also controlled and attacked them. A great battle broke out, and the Sky Blade sect fell into a strange state. Not only that, but other than the Sky Blade sect, some of the other sects and families were also inexplicably controlled by their shadows. This time it was even more terrifying, because very few people could escape. After all, everyone had a shadow. In the end, 50 families and sects were controlled by the shadows. They attacked at the same time. Their target was the Great Emperor's family, and it was the Qilin clan. When the Qilin clan was attacked, they were also shocked. Did these people eat the guts of a leopard? They actually dared to attack them. Kill! These people shouted crazily. However, among them, many people from the Qilin clan were unknowingly controlled and attacked in secret. This caused the people from the Qilin clan to suffer heavy injuries. Quickly, activate the apex weapon. Damn it! Who dares to control our clansmen? They roared crazily. In this situation, it was obvious that their souls were being controlled. A divine furnace bloomed with light between heaven and earth, illuminating the entire world. The aura of the apex weapon swept through everything. The dozens of clans were forced to retreat. Although the Qilin clan had settled down, they had also suffered heavy losses. After all, this time, the disciples of their clans had all been affected. These people's expressions were ugly. In fact, their Qilin son was injured. He was injured by his own elder. As for that elder, he was reduced to ashes by the apex weapon. What happened? It was the Qilin clan. The Qilin clan had used their apex weapon. Who dared to attack them? The people from the buried Emperor Star raised their heads to look at the sky. The Emperor clans also frowned. Previously, they had just been attacked by the person in jade. Now the Qilin clan was being attacked. Was the land of Absolute beginning going to make a move? The people of the Divine Union were also in an uproar. Lin Xian walked out of the sword world once again. He frowned when he sensed the aura of the apex weapon. Everyone had to be careful. He told the people of the Divine Union not to go out. At the same time, a few of them went forward to investigate. The people from the Emperor clan also came. When they found out that it wasn't the land of Absolute beginning that had made a move, they were even more shocked. It was actually dozens of ancient clans. Were these people crazy? However, this wasn't the end. A month later, another battle would start. Their target was the clans of the Emperor clan. This time, they were attacking the Kuinpeng clan. The Kuinpeng clan had no choice but to activate their apex weapon. However, they still suffered some injuries. This made their expressions even colder. This was because they realized that the number of clans attacking them this time was even greater than before. They were crazy. They were completely crazy. The people from the Qilin clan were shocked. The others also sucked in a breath of cold air. What was the reason? Why were these clans so crazy? In an instant, everyone felt as if they were facing a great enemy. They felt that these dozens of clans were very likely being controlled by someone. Who could have such a heaven-defying method? How strong was this spirit? Even Lin Wudi's 6 paths of reincarnation couldn't do it. Chapter 5568. Things weren't over yet. After this, more and more families, sects, experts, and rogue cultivators were controlled. The number had reached a terrifying level. There were hundreds of families and sects, and soon there were more than 300, and it was still increasing. This scene terrified the people on the buried Emperor Star. The target of these people was the great Emperor families. The clans of the martial monarchs roared furiously. For many years, no one had dared to challenge them. They had never expected such a scene to occur. However, they weren't afraid. So what if there were more families and sects? However, the situation didn't ease. Gradually, in addition to the buried Emperor Star, the other worlds in the universe were also controlled. There were even some worlds that were completely controlled. Moreover, they attacked the great Emperor families. The great Emperor families were furious. At this moment, they had no choice but to treat it seriously. In the end, they even activated their extreme weapons. Extreme Tao power swept across the world. Those great Emperor clans unleashed their extreme Tao light, sweeping through everything in their path. The others were shocked. It was too unbelievable. When had the great Emperor families ever been challenged like this? Apart from Lin Wudi, no one had dared to challenge them. However, this time, someone had attacked the great Emperor families. It wasn't just one great Emperor family. A few martial monarch clans were affected. Who was the enemy? They actually didn't know. Could it be that another forbidden land was making a move? Countless people guessed. Naturally, the Divine Union was also affected. This was because they also had extreme weapons on their side. The people of the Divine Union were in an uproar. The Crimson Dragon said, "Damn it, this method was too terrifying." The Toad said, "Could it be that a great emperor has been resurrected?" Lin Xian frowned. He also unleashed his extreme aura. The heaven-devouring jar bloomed, forming an endless black hole that surrounded the entire Divine Union to prevent those people from attacking. He probed and said, "If it's soul control, how strong is this soul power?" Even a boundary emperor couldn't do it. Is it really a great emperor? He thought of the half-frog back then. Could it be the other half, using such a method to attack? Of course, this was only his guess. Besides soul control, there were other methods of control. There were some methods that he couldn't think of. If it were other methods, perhaps he would have a way to do it. Above the buried Emperor Star, there are extreme Tao lights flying all day long. Terrifying extreme Tao aura swept through the 9 heavens to fight against the other experts. Great battles broke out every day, causing countless people to feel terrified. They thought it was the end of the world because nothing like this had ever happened before. The only relatively safe places were the 2 forbidden areas in the human world and the residents of heaven. The Z Mansion also possessed imperial armaments. However, their identities were too mysterious. Thus, no one dared to attack them. Although the Divine Union had suffered a blow, they still had an extreme grade weapon. It would be very difficult for these people to break in. It was almost impossible. However, he still had to be on guard. If the Forbidden Land of Life or the Purple Mansion joined forces with these people, then the situation would not be good. Lin Xian had guessed correctly. Some of the Forbidden Lands had joined forces. Mount Eternal and Huangling once again brought the power of supreme beings to join hands with these people. They were preparing to attack the monarch clans. The surprising thing was that the Z Fu Dao didn't do anything. The Purple Mansion had always been very quiet. It was unknown what the Purple Mansion was doing. The people of the Z government were also puzzled. A few elders had said that this was the best opportunity to attack Lin Wudi. Kill him, and we can take revenge. However, the chief of the Z government said, "Nobody is allowed to go out, just wait." The time was not right yet. After he finished speaking, he ignored those people and looked up at the sky. This was only the beginning of the changes in the world. The real show was yet to come. He knew who these people were, but it was impossible for these people to attack the Ground Clan. However, it was enough to set off a storm. Sure enough, after the 2 Forbidden Lands joined in, the situation changed. The power of the Mortal Realm Supreme Weapon was extremely terrifying. Although it wasn't an extreme weapon, it actually dared to contend against an extreme weapon. In addition, there were too many experts, clans, and sects that were being controlled. All of a sudden, those great emperor clans were in danger. After all, continuously using an extreme grade weapon would consume a lot of their energy. Finally, on this day, the Yi family was the first to recover. The suppression of the Celestial Emperor's cauldron sent a group of experts flying, turning them into ashes. After the Yi clan, the Gu clan had also fully recovered. Their extreme weapons had repelled the attackers. In an instant, the situation eased a little. However, the remaining people didn't run away. Instead, they were still accumulating energy. The Divine Union also frowned. They had also used an extreme weapon. The Desolate Tower recovered fully and repelled the enemies. Damn it, these Forbidden Lands were actually targeting them. It seemed like they wanted to take revenge. Fortunately, they had 3 extreme weapons on their side. Even if Yen Ruyu went back to protect the Demon Emperor Mountain, they still had 2 extreme weapons on their side. However, on this day, a blue radiance flew over from the sky. The array set up by the Crimson Dragon shook. What the hell was that? Many of his array formations had been frozen. What terrifying ice! Who was it? The people of the Divine Union were shocked. After they recovered their extreme weapons, those people didn't attack them. Instead, they confronted them. Who would have thought that someone would attack them today? Bai Susu, Toad, and the others walked out. Their eyes were shining with the most terrifying radiance. Did they want to fight? They would accompany them to the end. Wait a minute. Lin Xian frowned. Why did this ice feel so familiar? His 9-yang divine body began to sway. What happened to Brother Xian? Morong Qingqing was shocked. How could the divine body change like this? Even the dark red divine dragon said, "Kid, could it be that you've been plotted against?" Lin Xian said, "No, it's her. She's here." Who was it? The crimson dragon was shocked. Morong Qingqing was also puzzled. Lin Xian said, "Qingqing, do you remember what I told you? About the 99 yang?" Murong Qingqing was also stunned. Then she said, could it be? She naturally knew about Lin Xian's past. Lin Xian didn't hide it from her and told her everything. When Lin Xian had just arrived at the buried Emperor Star, he had met a woman who had obtained the 9 Yin 9 Yang inheritance and even become Lin Xian's woman. Murong Qingqing knew about this. It was just that she had never had the chance to meet that woman. Who would have thought that she would come today? That's right, it was her. Lin Xian nodded. Only she could make the 9 Yang divine body change like this. Chapter 5569. Lin Xian was extremely excited when he thought about her. He hadn't seen her for a long time, and he didn't know how she was doing. However, she had obtained the inheritance of the 9 Yin divine body, so there shouldn't be any problems, right? He walked outside and opened the array. The formation opened, and Lin Xian went to welcome the other party. However, there was no one outside, and there was only that blue light. What's going on? Lin Xian furrowed his brows tightly. Murong Qingqing, the Crimson Dragon, and the others had also arrived. When they discovered that there was no one outside, they looked around as well. Lin Xian's eyes shone with the radiance of the reincarnation as he looked at the blue light. In the next instant, his pupils contracted as he released the power of the reincarnation wheel and engulfed the blue light. Inside, he heard a weak voice. Save me. Not good. Xue Qi is in danger. Lin Xian was instantly enraged. His killing intent soared into the sky. Who is it? He couldn't be forgiven for daring to attack his woman. Elder brother Xian, what's going on? Murong Qingqing and the others were also confused. Lin Xian said that Xue Qi was in danger. How could this be? They were all shocked. Lin Xian furrowed his brows tightly. Who was his opponent? He didn't know. Where is Xue Qi? He also didn't know. What kind of danger is it? He also didn't know. There was only a single signal for help. This was troublesome. The Crimson Dragon asked. Could it be related to the recent situation? Many powerhouses' clans had been controlled. Could he also be controlled by these people? Lin Xian frowned when he heard this. It was very likely. The person who had appeared this time was too mysterious. He had dared to attack a great emperor's clan. Moreover, it wasn't just one of them, but several great emperor's clans. Such a person was terrifying. Even if Xue Qi had the 9 Yin divine body, she wouldn't be able to resist him, unless she had an extremely powerful weapon. No, I have to save Xue Qi quickly. Lin Xian's eyes shone with a cold light. Send someone to investigate. Lin Xian used the Divine Union's power to investigate. He had to find her. The members of the Divine Union started to move. Lin Xian waited anxiously for a few days, but there was still no news. Murong Qingqing also said, Brother Xian, I've already sent the people from the Phoenix clan to investigate and see if there are any 9 Yin bodies among the people who attacked the emperor. This kind of physique should be easy to recognize. Indeed, 9 Yin and 9 Yang belong to the super strong physiques in the universe. Once it appeared, it was like a bright light in the dark night, instantly recognizable. However, there was no news so far. Dalong, do you have any ideas? Lin Xian asked Dalong find out who the enemy is first. Then I can help you analyze it. All right, just you wait. Lin Xian immediately rushed out. Not long after, he returned with dozens of experts in his hands. Without exception, these people were all suppressed by him. Black light appeared in the eyes of these people as they roared crazily. However, how could they possibly be a match for Lin Xian? They were all suppressed back. Crimson Dragon by Su Su and the others also rushed over. When they saw these people, they exclaimed in surprise. Were these the experts who were being controlled? This was too unbelievable. Lin Xian used his Rinnegan to investigate. The next moment he was stunned. This was not soul control. Murong Qingqing and the others were also stunned. This was not soul control. Then how could it control these people? even the savage wilderness ancestor, and the others were shocked. Lin Xian could only ask DeLong. This time, DeLong had a target and could analyze it. The next moment he said, I know. This is indeed not soul control. Then what is it? Lin Xian asked. Do you know? DeLong said, looking at their shadows, this was shadow control. Shadows? Lin Xian frowned and looked ahead. The next moment, his pupils constricted. He said, retreat. After saying that, he slashed forward with his sword. By Susu Rizalong, and the others were still puzzled. In an instant, they realized that their shadows had suddenly changed and wrapped around their bodies. They wanted to envelop them. Damn it, what was this? The crimson dragon was stunned. Bai Susu's face was pale as well, and even Murong Qingchen was startled. She shouted angrily, and the 7-colored phoenix in her body erupted. It swept across the 9 heavens and blocked the shadows. The shadows quickly spread out. The shadows of the people from the Divine Union also started to sway. Lin Xian snorted, and a terrifying sword aura rushed out of his body and slashed in all directions. It slashed the shadows. The shadows let out mournful cries. No, impossible. How could you hurt us? Frenzied roars could be heard. Humph. Lin Xian snorted and attacked again. Every ray of sword qi cleaved these shadows apart. Soon, the shadows all fell to the ground and split into pieces. There was also a black silhouette that was tumbling nonstop. He roared in horror. No one had ever been able to hurt them before. However, this young man had done it. Who are you? Who are you? Lin Xian stepped on the shadow and pierced it with his sword aura, nailing it to the ground. That's what I wanted to ask you. Who are you? Tell me, and I'll give you a quick death. Don't even think about it. The shadow was still roaring. Lin Xian stabbed the shadow with his sword. The shadow let out a miserable cry. Then, Lin Xian's sword aura fell like rain. In the end, the shadow was terrified. Kid, you're dead. Don't you know that I'm from the Devouring Shadow Clan? Offending me means offending the entire Devouring Shadow Clan. Let me go, and I'll spare your lives. Devouring Shadow Clan. The Crimson Dragon frowned. They had never heard of it. Could it be that it was a new 10,000 ancient tribe like the person in the jade? Lin Xian also frowned. What do you think, DeLong? DeLong sighed. It was indeed them. The Devouring Shadow Clan was one of the 10,000 ancient tribes that had disappeared. They could control shadows. Anyone's shadow could be controlled. Those who were controlled weren't controlled by their souls, but by their shadows. That was why they couldn't control themselves. Next, DeLong explained in detail. Lin Xian was shocked. Murong Qingqing and the others also knew. They sucked in a breath of cold air. Those who attacked the great emperor clans were all under the Shadow's control, and they were all from the Devouring Shadow Clan. They were called Shadow Devourers. Each Shadow Devourer could control different amounts of shadows depending on their strength. The Shadow Devourer in front of them was obviously a very powerful one. Unfortunately, he met Lin Xian. Lin Xian's sword aura was invincible and restrained the other party. Since he knew who the other party was, he had a clue. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Speak. Did you control the Ninein body? Tell me. Don't even think about it. The Shadow Devourer sneered. Kid, just wait to be controlled by us. As he spoke, countless cracks appeared on his body. He turned into smoke and dissipated. Damn it. Lin Xian's expression changed. 6 paths of reincarnation. Search. The illusions of 6 worlds completely enveloped the fragments. Chapter 5570. The 6 paths of reincarnation appeared to suppress everything, but this time it was useless. This Shadow Devourer had actually chosen to die. He had fallen. Damn it! Lin Xian roared. He was extremely angry. He did not expect these people to be so ruthless to him. They would rather die than let him, search their souls. Damn it, is he dead? What should I do? The Crimson Dragon and the others also frowned. Should we catch a few more to take a look? Lin Xian shook his head. These shadow devourers were all lunatics. Although he had only come into contact with one, Lin Xian could tell that these people were indeed too crazy. No wonder they were destroyed back then and only came out after countless years. It must have been because of this method that they were destroyed after offending an extremely terrifying expert. No matter how powerful you are, since you have offended me, I will completely destroy you this time. Killing intent appeared in Lin Xian's eyes. However, the most important thing right now was to find Xueqi. He asked along if there was a way. These shadow devourers were very mysterious, and the number of people they controlled was too large. If you only rely on your strength to search, it would be like searching for a needle in a haystack. After all, the Nining body you mentioned might not necessarily be in Burial Earthstar. In the vast universe, unless you were a great emperor, it would be too difficult to search. Was there no other way? Lin Xian frowned. DeLong said, "It's not like there isn't any. Go to the Sword World and take a look. There is a flower called Flower. If it opens, then you have hope. Using the flying snow flower, you can find the most terrifying ice in the world. If the Nining divine body was here, the flying snow flower would definitely look for him immediately." Flying snow flower? All right, I'll go look for it. When Lin Xian heard that there was a chance in the Sword World, he immediately set off. At the same time, he was shocked. This Sword World was indeed extraordinary. The others waited. After Lin Xian entered the Sword World, he began to search for the areas that he had not been to before. Although those areas had recovered their vitality, the pressure was extremely great. Lin Xian walked on top of it, his divine body swaying. He snorted coldly and activated his laws. The 9-yang divine body was also displayed to the extreme. He walked like a sun war god, blocking the attacks. But even so, he walked very slowly. However, Lin Xian didn't give up. 5 days later, he stopped and looked at a flower of frost in front of him. The frost was light and translucent, completely formed from ice and snow. It wasn't on the ground, but was instead dancing in the air. Lin Xian was overjoyed. Endless devil qi condensed between his fingers, forming a devil world cage. It enveloped him and brought him out. After coming out, Lin Xian activated the flying snow flower. After the flying snow flower appeared, it emitted a chilling aura, causing the scalps of the surrounding people to go numb. Even Morong Qingqing trembled. Savage Ancestor and the others were even more shocked. What was that? This was too terrifying. They had seen a lot of spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits in the world. However, this was the first time they had seen something as terrifying as Lin Xian's. Everyone in the Divine Union started to tremble as a wave of cold air quickly froze them. The pupils of the people in the Divine Union shrank, as if they were facing a great enemy. In their opinion, someone had come to attack them. However, that wasn't the case. Lin Xian said, "Don't be afraid. No one is attacking." He soared into the air and told Qingqing, "Stay here and help me look after the Divine Union. I'll go. Be careful with Big Brother Xian. If there is any danger, you must contact us as soon as possible." Lin Xian nodded. He soared into the air and left with the sky-devouring jar. This time he was on his way alone. His speed was extremely fast as he followed the flying snow, shuttling between heaven and earth. Along the way, he encountered a few sects that wanted to kill him. If this had been in the past, Lin Xian would have ignored them. However, he didn't do that now. He attacked these people because they were backed by the Shadow Devourers. Lin Xian hated the Shadow Devourers very much. He specifically attacked those shadows. His sword, Qi, contained an extremely terrifying and sharp power. The Azura sword skill was a killing move, and every strike of his sword pierced a hole through those shadows. Miserable shrieks were heard one after another. The Shadow Devourers fled quickly. They had never imagined that this person would be so terrifying. They wanted to leave. Lin Xian snorted coldly. His Rinnegan eye locked onto the other party as he attacked once again. The sword Qi shuttled back and forth like lightning, striking the other party's body and emitting miserable shrieks. Damn it! That shadow devourer mobilized hundreds of powerhouses to intercept him. Hundreds of powerhouses swarmed towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian took out the sky-devouring jar and created a terrifying vortex. The aura of the extreme grade enveloped these hundreds of powerhouses. The shadow devourer felt his scalp go numb. Damn it! This was the power of the extreme grade. This was an extreme grade weapon. Who are you? He was really stunned. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Did you want to know? Go to hell and ask. He slashed out with his sword again. The shadow devourer still wanted to resist, but he was split apart by the sword. He screamed miserably. Shadow incarnation. His shadow turned into millions of shadows and fled in all directions. He swore that when he returned he would call for more companions and send more than 10 families to suppress the other party. You still want to leave? Impossible. Lin Xian took out the Tai Chi diagram. The Tai Chi diagram shone brightly. The yin-yang sword appeared, and the overwhelming sword Qi pierced through all the hundreds of shadow clones. The clones split apart one after another. In the end, the shadow's true body was also pierced through. He screamed miserably, and his body and soul were destroyed. Lin Xian soared into the air and continued on his way. Along the way, he encountered more and more attacks, and those people were all suppressed by him. He took away all the storage rings. As for those shadow devourers, they were all killed by him. After the shadow devourers died, those who were controlled also recovered. They looked at Lin Xian and kowtowed nonstop, thanking Lin Gongzi for taking action. Lin Gongzi, I will never forget your kindness. Lin Gongzi, from now on you are our leader. We will not hesitate to go through mountains of swords and seas of fire. These people kept kowtowing. Lin Xian said, If you are willing to follow me, then hide and wait. I will summon you one day. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Xian's figure disappeared, and the others hid themselves. He flew all the way and finally left Burial Earthstar. The snowflake was still flying in front of him. Every time it turned, it would shed light. After leaving Burial Earthstar, Lin Xian frowned. If he was in some corner of the universe, his speed would be very slow. He didn't know if Xue Qi could wait for him. Fortunately, after leaving Burial Earthstar, the snowflake flew directly to Quintessential World. Lin Xian raised his eyebrows. Could it be that he was in Quintessential World? Thinking of this, he grabbed the snowflake and used the teleportation array to teleport to Quintessential World. Chapter 5571. In the Glacier of Quintessential World. The glacier was covered in ice and snow. It was a world of ice and snow. The other saints did not dare to step into this place because they would be frozen into ice sculptures. However, there were many people on the glacier at this moment. They covered the sky and covered the earth, covering this area. If these figures were seen by others, they would definitely be shocked. They were the experts of the various holy lands in Quintessential World. The current holy lands were much more powerful than before. They were not weaker than the remote antiquity families on Burial Earthstar. So many people were attacking together. Who was their opponent? There was a figure in front of them. It was a woman. She was dressed in blue and had an extremely beautiful face. At this moment, her face was extremely pale, and there was endless ice on her body. She turned into chains of the great path and swept in all directions. The entire glacier seemed to have been manipulated by her and turned into a land of ice and snow. The shadows under the feet of the experts of the holy lands opposite her started to drift strangely. One of them said, "This woman is really difficult to deal with." I did not expect that she could still resist. At the same time, another person sneered. So what? Looking at her physique, she should have the legendary Nine body. Such a physique is extremely extraordinary. It's hard to find one in 10,000 years. Now that we've met one, it's our luck. This time, we must control her no matter what. With such a powerful puppet, we can sweep away everything in the future. The person who said this was also a woman. Of course, only her voice could be heard. Another man laughed and said, "Junior sister, don't worry. We have controlled so many people. Can't we do anything to her? It is only a matter of time before we can control her. Moreover, eldest senior brother is here. Eldest senior brother is the Triple Crown King. It will be no problem for him to suppress her. However, this woman is using the power of the glacier to fight against us. When she can't hold on any longer, she will die." The people who spoke were shadow devourers. They had controlled countless experts. They were preparing to attack the person in front of them. The person in front of them was Shui-Chi, who had the Nine body. Shui-Chi's face was extremely pale. She had been traveling in the universe. She had come to cultivate her Nine body. However, when she came to quintessential world, the world changed and countless people were controlled. Furthermore, he was chasing after her. Fortunately, she was strong enough to avoid the pursuit of dozens of sections. But in the end, a Triple Crown champion appeared and directly entangled her shadow, causing her to be severely injured. At the critical moment, she fled to the glacier. He used the frost of the glacier to fight against it. However, he also knew that he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Over the years, her strength had improved by leaps and bounds, reaching an inconceivable level. Now, she was already the double champion. However, he couldn't compare to the Triple Crown champion. She thought that in a few days she would be completely controlled, so she sent out a call for help. She wondered if her husband would come. Shui-Chi suddenly thought of a person, a young heavenly god. Although Shui-Chi hadn't seen Lin Xian in all these years, she had heard all kinds of legends about Lin Xian, killing the crown prince, sweeping through the monarch race, killing the Triple Crown King, one powerful feat after another spread throughout the universe. Shui-Chi was both happy and worried. The stronger Lin Xian was, the happier she was. However, she was also worried that she wouldn't be able to catch up to him. That was why she hadn't seen him in all these years. Instead, she worked hard to improve herself so that she could catch up to Lin Xian one day and stand beside him. In the twinkling of an eye, 3 days passed. The woman from the devouring Shadow Clan couldn't bear it any longer. He snorted coldly, "I'm going to attack." He controlled more than 100 experts and walked forward. Shui-Chi also opened her eyes and activated the Nine divine body. Instantly, a terrifying wind and snow swayed, and the frost in the sky turned into terrifying blue claws that slashed toward them. These sharp claws appeared and disappeared mysteriously, and they instantly left countless bloody wounds on the bodies of the more than 100 experts. Many of their bodies were directly torn apart. It's so terrifying. As expected of the Nine divine body, the woman from the devouring Shadow Clan snorted coldly and said, "Senior brother, help me." The other person sneered coldly. He also urged more than 100 people to move quickly. At the same time, an even more terrifying power appeared. Shui-Chi shouted angrily and waved her palms, which turned into ice and snow claws to contend against it. At the same time, the ice and snow in the sky were swept up by him and turned into boundless ice and snow. The ice and snow turned into a sea that surged toward them. The confrontation between the two sides was earth-shattering. Hateful. I can't even take it down. The woman was infuriated. "Senior brother, please attack. The game is over." A cold snort transmitted from the sky, and a black shadow appeared suddenly. He spread out his hands and covered the sky. In an instant, the sky turned dark. Not good. Xueqi's expression changed drastically, and she quickly flew toward the depths of the glacier. She had no choice, as this black shadow was the Triple Crown King, and he was the one who had injured her. Bang! An intense rumbling sound echoed out, and the whole glacier shook. At this moment, the people in the quintessential world raised their heads and looked at the sky. They discovered that half of the world was covered by ice and snow, and it was spreading quickly. It seemed like it was going to freeze the whole world. It's too terrifying. What kind of person is attacking us? It's definitely the ice god. However, I can still feel an even more terrifying and gloomy power. Is that power the power that's controlling the quintessential world in secret? It's said that many holy lands have already been controlled. Some sects and clans were discussing this, and even the Yuhua Celestial Dynasty's Immortal Foundation experts furrowed their brows. They were also affected, and many of them even activated the ancient power left behind by the Yuhua Celestial Dynasty. Only then could they resist it. The void in the quintessential world fluctuated, and a figure appeared. It was Lin Xian. After Lin Xian came out, he sensed that the sky was filled with ice and snow, as well as the terrifying Triple Crown Wangli. His expression changed drastically, and in the next instant a golden radiance burst out of his eyes and tore through the 9 heavens. Xueqi is in danger, he shouted angrily, and a pair of black wings appeared on his back. The wings spread out, and they tore through the 9 heavens. His speed was extremely fast. At this moment, not only was there ice and snow, but there was also a fierce wind. This was a storm brought about by the demonic god wings. It swept across 1,000,000 miles. Countless people raised their heads to look at the sky, and they saw a black lightning bolt disappear instantly. Heavens! What is this? The Holy Land's divine ancestors raised their heads to look at the sky, and their pupils contracted. Some living fossils were so scared that their scalps went numb. What kind of speed is this? Did some shocking expert descend on the quintessential world? It should be known that there were many divine ancestors in the quintessential world. There were even some powerhouses who had awakened from their slumber. After all, this world was also very mysterious. However, these powerhouses were still shocked. One could only imagine. How terrifying was the person who was flying in the sky. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.